Hey, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? Accolonn here, and of course, as always, joined by Rurikhan drinking his water as I do the intro.
Hell yeah.
This is how unprofessional we are.
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean unprofessional?
Let me just explain.
Cook.
Right? I start the recording because Rurikhan says he's starting the recording. He then goes, "All right, bro, lead us in." As I go, "What's good, ladies and gentlemen?" Rurikhan goes, "Let me take a sip of my water." Not 5 seconds earlier, when there would have been no intro. No. At the moment of the intro, it's like, okay, I'll just take a giant glug of my water here.
Listen, it wasn't a giant gug. It was a tiny sip, and it was intentional because it was going to be a comedic effect wherein people were going to comment, man, look at how unprofessional Rurikhan is, drinking right at the intro. That was the intent, and then you ruined it. See, this is what you did.
I'm in agreement with our viewers.
Oh my god,
ladies and gentlemen,
you know it'd be cool.
Yeah.
It would be cool if this was actually rehearsed.
As if we're professional enough to rehearse anything. But no, this is all authentic. It's authentic banter. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're so happy to have you once again. We are recording this, however, on Thursday because Rurikhan once again is just addicted to video games. And all of his favorite games are now making betas and making play demos and stuff.
So like,
yeah,
listen,
we have to record this on Thursday.
At the end of the day, I love making content. You know what I like even more? I like playing video games, bro. I'm addicted to playing video games. I friggin' love them. And this weekend, not only we have Elden Ring Night Rain, the very first public network test, because apparently there was like a private network test not that long ago. And we're getting the very first public one, the one that I get to play in, and I'm going to be playing some Elden Ring Night Rain, and that crashes right into our usual recording slot, so we had to record early. The funny thing is, whenever we record early, it's always my fault. You can always blame me. Yep.
Well, yeah, it is, because fundamentally, that's just your job, right? You cover mostly specific games on your channel, and when those games do stuff, it was back when I did WoW, we probably would have had the same issue, right? Because there would have been days where I just couldn't do it because I have to work on WoW stuff.
I don't think we would have, because usually the WoW patches dropped on like Wednesday in Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but oftentimes the podcasts, the interviews and the stuff happen on the Thursday and the Friday after the WoW patch.
When it comes to Blizzard stuff, it would usually happen like Friday evening, so that people could report on it before the weekend. Because it's always bad news, dude. It's always
we didn't even have this on the list. We didn't even have this on the list, but I will lead with it.
I know what it is.
Did you see what is back?
Yes. You want to know why we didn't have it on the list? It was because, when I was doing the list, I did it, and then I went to bed, and then I was in my bed, like scrolling through Twitter, and I was like, no shot they did this. I can't believe Blizzard. I mean, I can believe that Blizzard would do that, but you know, it is what it is.
It's Blizzard's business strategy. When our game is failing and not doing well, monetize it more. You know, that's just the business strategy of Blizzard. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, we'll just throw that in here. Loot boxes are back in Overwatch 2.
Bro!
The game that is dying because it's not Overwatch 2. It's Overwatch 1.101, basically. And after they reverted all of the changes to the team sizes, it's basically just Overwatch 1 remake, right? And now the loot boxes are coming back because the game still isn't turning a profit.
Like,
just disgusting.
I just have to say something that is basically what I said in my quote tweet of this news, which, by the way, was tweeted by the official Overwatch account as something that they are super excited to bring back. And they just say, like, loot boxes are back. Like, they give you, like, the pause, like, get hyped. Get hyped for loot boxes in Overwatch. Available in both the Battle Pass and weekly rewards. See what surprises are waiting for you when loot boxes make their official return in Season 15. Now, The thing that is extremely disappointing to me is that this post isn't ratioed to hell and back. This
but it won't be.
Yeah, it won't be. It's just so brutally disappointing because it really shows you that the Overwatch community, listen, you like what you like, you play what you want, but I can't believe that you would be excited for the prospect of loot boxes. But then again, I guess that's just the matter of the battle pass was so egregiously bad and terrible that people are like, oh yes, give us literally anything else. So Blizzard has successfully implemented the method of shitting all over your face, and then you're thanking them when they're pissing on you instead. That's what
it's a viable business strategy.
It is. Like Blizzard's like, I'm gonna shit all over your face with this battle pass, and you're like, oh Blizzard, please stop shitting on me. And they're like, okay. They unzip and they go like, nah, I'm pissing on you instead. And they're like, oh thank God, at least it's warm. It's like,
and it's washing away all the shit that I just had to deal with in my face.
Bro.
It is. I apologize to the viewers that have overactive imaginations that just sat there and actually had to think about this. If you're eating at this moment, welcome to the podcast.
I shouldn't have done that right on the opening too.
No, but fundamentally, I think this is just how the industry operates.
Yeah.
But I would go so far as to say the reason it won't be ratioed, I don't think all of those likes on those tweets from media companies are actual likes. There's just so much now in the industry. I actually do believe that almost every single AAA studio is botting. They're tired of being consistently. Now, they won't do it on things like YouTube. That's why you still see those massive dislike ratios. Because YouTube will actually, no cap, YouTube will just delete a gaming studio's YouTube channel if they're caught botting. Botting is a huge thing on YouTube because it screws with their monetization. If it comes out that botting is allowed, even for big gaming companies, advertisers pull out immediately because how the hell am I supposed to trust what's happening here? True. Right? So YouTube won't allow it. For X and those things, dude, literally every single day, I get about 20 likes from porn bots. Just these no-follower porn Andes, girls basically just going, click for the spicy photo below. 20 of them every single day on my tweets. And I'm just like, dude, I started a new Twitter channel. The channel doesn't even have 200 followers. And it's happening on my channel. I can't imagine how many of this is happening on, much larger channels, right? So I think Twitter has a massive botting issue. And I think the AAA studios are running with that because we see it in the replies to a lot of their tweets. Go through a lot of those replies, you'll find that it's literally the same reply. Just the words are slightly jumbled around, but it's the same reply.
Just gassing it up, yeah.
Yeah, people are just going, oh, finally, it's happening. Loot boxes in hashtag Overwatch, and everyone just has to hashtag Overwatch because they're getting the hashtag trending, and they're getting, engagement farming.
I haven't seen that one specifically, but yeah.
No, I'm not saying it is in the Overwatch one. I haven't looked that closely, but I know it was in Skull and Bones. That where
right, yeah, I remember.
There were just pages and pages of accounts tweeting how amazing hashtag Skull and Bones is. And it's just like, no normal person talks this way. What is happening? Yeah. So fundamentally, I think a lot of those likes are just bought. And if they're smart, they do it in such a way that it still looks believable, at least. But I mean, the loot box of returning should not really surprise anyone. This has been Blizzard's business strategy. When the game is failing, just give them more ways to give money.
Just monetize harder.
Yeah, most people don't even know. The most egregious monetization in World of Warcraft didn't happen during World of Warcraft's heyday. It didn't happen during the best times of World of Warcraft. The most egregious monetization in World of Warcraft came in the midst of Battle for Azeroth, Shadowlands, expansions where things are dying. Blizzard increases their monetization significantly. Shadowlands was one of the worst expansions Blizzard ever had. It was the expansion with the most cash shop mounts ever released.
I'm pretty sure that Shadowlands was the worst expansion they've ever had, but interestingly enough, it
Yeah,
simultaneously made it to most sold PC game of all time when it launched or something like that, which is interesting when you consider that they came from the low of Battle for Azeroth. That just shows you the power of Blizzard actually manipulating content creators, because a lot of content creators were given access to their beta. And it's funny because I actually spoke to Preach not that long ago about this. We were talking about World of Warcraft in the podcast, because Preach been playing like Monster Hunter, so we did 2 podcasts together. And I remember, I mean, I had completely forgotten about this, but he brought it up because he was like, "Man, we were having such a blast in the actual beta doing Torghast because Torghast was actually fun." And then Blizzard, like, freaking just changed everything before the game came out and made Torghast, like, the worst thing ever. So it's like Blizzard successfully gaslit content creators.
Well, it was... So, Battle for Azeroth did a big job of curing me of hype content for World of Warcraft.
Oh, yeah.
So, because in Battle for Azeroth, there were a lot of things wrong with the beta. But... these were things that was easily fixable. These were things that if Blizzard just listened to the feedback, it would have actually been really good. Like Azerite armor, for example.
Oh, God.
I made my video saying, dude, this is just the only gear we have at the moment with Azerite armor is the leveling gear. And yes, the bonuses on those aren't really that good. But I can see a world where this can be even better than the artifact weapons. Because it's a cool system, right? You just need to really make it cool by adding cool spells and cool effects to these armors. And then it turns out the leveling armor effects was basically as good as it gets.
Yeah.
Right? So Blizzard took none of the feedback, but we all hyped it because we believed that the raid gear would be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
It would look a lot better. So I learned in Battle for Azeroth never to go on the if Blizzard fix it hype train. I just go, now, guys, this is what you're getting.
In Shadowlands, it was even worse because it wasn't if they fix it. It was more like, okay, if they simply don't change it, this is going to be great. And then they busted it.
You know, if they just don't ruin this, it's going to be good.
Which kind of like brings us full circle back to Overwatch, because Overwatch 1 was one of those situations where it's like, if you simply don't change this, and you keep building on it and bring new characters, this will be great. What does Blizzard do? You know what? Let's just not support Overwatch for 2 years straight, work on a sequel that literally nobody wants except for the PvE content, and then cancel the PvE content.
Why not? Why don't we do that?
And now, just to like really rein it in home, let's bring loot boxes back, which is the thing that everybody hated. It's like, okay.
Well, the funniest thing about this is...
oh my God.
So Blizzard says they're doing the Overwatch 2 because PvE content is going to be a new thing.
I remember that.
Putting much more PvE, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's super excited because we're finally getting like actual story missions and lore and stuff in the Overwatch
because those characters are cool. You know, unlike...
a lot of the characters are very cool.
Unlike Concord, you know, Reinhardt's cool. Friggin' Torbjorn's cool. Friggin' Farah is cool. Like, there's all of these really cool characters.
Yeah, they have really cool characters in Overwatch. That's very true. But then the PvE content gets slashed. Now, the other change, of course, was the team sizes in the actual matches. That then gets changed back to the original because the new team sizes didn't actually work out. All of the balancing eventually got changed to be closer to Overwatch 1 because Overwatch 2 balancing wasn't doing that well. And then finally, the one final thing that made Overwatch 2 not quite Overwatch 1 was the fact that it didn't have any loot boxes. And bang, 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 we're back. They should actually just drop the 2 now. Because there is no 2. It's the same game.
The funny thing is... I already know what's going to happen if somebody that is like addicted to Overwatch sees our criticism here. They're gonna use the same defense that the World of Warcraft community does, which is always like, you guys aren't even playing the game. And it's like, okay, this doesn't mean that we're not informed. This doesn't mean that we haven't played the game in the past. This doesn't mean that we know exactly what is going on. Like we do. So it's like, we know that a lot of you guys are like, oh, thank God loot boxes are back. But that's just because the battle pass is so goddamn garbage. And it's like, you're being happy that you're being fed a different type of slop. It's like, you have the really nasty slop, and then you have the slightly less nasty slop this time. And it's like,
I will also say, if your criticism is, but you guys don't even play Overwatch 2, have you ever asked yourself why we don't play Overwatch 2? Because I owned Overwatch 1. Oh, I owned that shit.
Like, bro, I did one of the most, I hosted one of the most successful Overwatch live streams during Overwatch's launch.
Overwatch 1 was actually fun. I never played it super seriously.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
But it was fun to jump into and play a couple of games when you have literally nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And then Overwatch 1 went to shit because they stopped updating because they were working on the next big thing. And then I found Call of Duty, Warzone. That became my jump in and do a couple of things if I have nothing else to do. And then I found League of Legends. Well, I rediscovered League of Legends and I started playing that.
It's not getting much better.
Have something to do. Dude, from my perspective, League of Legends is fun. Right? I like jumping into League, playing a couple of games.
Can be,
Just, it's fun. You know, I enjoy that shit.
I should ask you, what role do you play usually?
It differs. Most of the time, it's either AD carry or jungle.
AD carry or jungle?
Jungle.
Jungle is your favorite?
Jungle.
Okay, so you're playing something where you're just like doing your own thing alone. I understand. Okay.
Yeah, well, I like jungle because you get to influence the map most as the jungler.
See, I used to
You can do it as mid lane, but you have to be super good as mid lane to do that. I'm not that good. I just play jungle.
I used to play support, and there are so many wannabe AD carries in that game that it just made me sad, and I gave up.
Oh yeah, support is hell. Support is literal hell.
Yeah,
I would never play support.
Yep, no, I think I'm done because support was my favorite thing because you get to like play the tanky heroes and stuff, and I'm just like, I like. I'd play Leona.
If you really want to play, like tanks and stuff,
you get to do
top lane is probably your top lane is probably your best place there.
But it's like my favorite heroes were support. Like I remember I liked Alistar, Leona, like these old heroes.
Oh, like those, so the support.
Yeah.
Dude, I've taken Leona top lane. She gets boss tanky. Well, this was years ago.
Yeah. Back when I was playing.
She gets mega tanky.
Back when I was playing, I remember that Leona top lane was not excellent. But yeah, Leona was my jam. I loved. But the thing was, I would keep setting up kills for the carry, and the carry is like camping our tower. Like, I'm farming, bro. I'm farming. Yeah, keep farming, you fucking moron, you idiot. We could be farming the enemy team right now, bro.
I even took Alistar top lane because, well, this was back in the day where tanks didn't really do damage, and they were just sort of beefy frontline where you couldn't kill them. And the thing was, a lot of these support tanks, dude, became like brick walls. When I tell you Leona can't die in top lane, I'm not lying.
Yeah, I know.
Because remember, as support, you are starved as shit. You're buying basically maybe 1 or 2 items a game. As top lane, you're full tank pulled by the time the game reaches end game. So you're just standing there looking at the ADC going, lol. Like, who cares?
I remember also doing
it was super fun.
I remember doing some Singe top lane at some point, I think. Singe top lane.
Oh, Singe was fun.
It was so disgusting.
Dude, it was so fun. You just run, and the funniest thing was, especially when you played noobs, that just kept chasing in the poison. And you're like, dude, I'm just killing you, and I'm not doing anything here. I'm just running away.
I remember just going through and just, I think I would even be streaming this, and I'd be constantly saying, like, breathe in the fumes. Yes, just breathe in the fumes.
Oh, man. It was so disgusting because once you had your first item on Singe, your poison would basically just kill the whole wave.
Yep.
So you just poison up, run through the wave, poison everything, and you just see all 6 minions die. And you're just pushing. So I would always do like proxy farm. So I would push into their tower, and then I would push in between their secondary and their primary tower, and I would just farm that. And this guy's just perma under his tower farming because these waves are never hitting the lane. Dude, it was so much fun. But all of this is a preamble, of course, because we are talking about one of League of Legends' premier Draven players that switched over to WoW Classic, and then stuff happened. Can you fill us in, Rurikhan? What happened with Tyler1?
I wouldn't say switched over. I would say he was just like he's playing some classic hardcore World of Warcraft. So
yeah,
this has been some of the funniest drama that has happened this week. I think that this was absolutely hilarious. And by the way, I think that Tyler1 is absolutely in the right with the crash out VOD that he made. And I know that a lot of people in the World of Warcraft community are going to be mad about that, but hey, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember a couple of episodes ago, we talked about how Tyler1 fought Soda Poppin for the title of War Chief of OnlyFangs, and he won.
Yes.
And he was the War Chief of OnlyFangs. So one of the things that they did is Tyler1 never raid led. So they had him raid lead Molten Core. Now, Tyler1... I think he knew the mechanics. At least it seemed like he knew the mechanics. But obviously, when you're raid leading for the first time, especially in a hardcore raid, things are going to get a little bit hectic. So before we even get started, I'm going to ask you, Accolonn, what boss do you think was the problem in this raid? What boss do you think was the issue?
I'm just going to go off of what I remember from back in the day. And I would say probably Ragnaros.
No.
Because most people died on Rag.
Or earlier than that. Very basic mechanic. Very basic mechanic.
I don't remember. I don't even remember the boss names. I just remember Ragnaros because I died on him. I don't know.
He looks like a fire elemental.
Oh, wait, they died on that?
Baron Geddon.
No. Wait, how do you wipe on that?
Living bomb. Actually, they died to the AoE, but people were also messing up Living Bomb. It was, listen, this was one of the most hilarious.
But how do you, dude, that is one of the easier, it's like basic tank and spank almost for the most part.
Exactly. So, what happened was, obviously, this is the first time that he's raid leading, and they're doing that for content so that they get some cool content, because it's going to be risky as hell when somebody's raid leading Molten Core for the first time. So the situation that happened was everybody's doing their thing, everybody's chilling, fighting Baron Geddon, and Tyler1's like screaming at the microphone every command that he has. He's screaming, and it's like, okay, everybody leave. So when Baron Geddon starts his AoEs, he says, okay, everybody leave, because you're supposed to like line of sight the AoE or whatever. I never really did Molten Core back in the day, so I don't know the tactics all that well. But I do know about Living Bomb. You're supposed to move away, you explode, and then you come back. This is basic World of Warcraft stuff. But there's the AoE, and so everybody line of sights the AoE. First mistake that Tyler does, he tells everybody to go in a little bit early, so the AoE's still going. So he's in a rush. He wants to get the boss down.
Which happens when you're raid leading for the first time. You panic. You sort of... Yeah. And I will say, what oftentimes happen as a first-time raid leader, you don't think that people are only listening to you, right? So what will happen is, as a raid leader, you will sometimes bark out a command with the idea that this should happen in a couple of seconds. You just want people to know before it happens that they have to go back in, right? But you're not specifying that, and what you don't realize is most people are morons in WoW. So when you say go back in, and you see the flames going and it's still mayhem, most people just go back in, because the raid leader said go back in, it's time.
No, but listen, what happened with Tyler is exactly the opposite of what you're saying. So he says go back in, and he did go back in early. And I've been told, because I saw some videos on it.
Wait, so he went in as well?
Yeah. He went in early. Okay.
But wait, they didn't die. That makes it
didn't die from this. They didn't die from this.
Yeah,
so they go back in,
but their health would be a little lower.
No. They were full. They were full health. before the situation actually happened. So they take a little bit of damage.
No, I meant after the situation, like this would have cost the healers a bit of mana trying to get everyone back up.
It was not a big deal. It was not a big deal. This mistake was not a big deal. But I have been told that like the last ticks of that AoE hurt more than the starting ones. Apparently, I don't. Again,
yeah, it's a ramp up basically.
Yeah, I didn't raid Molten Core back in the day, so I don't know too much about this. But anyway, they go back in.
I'll say this. Back in the day, the way the mechanics were set up, especially on Baron, was you'd have a couple of seconds while the AoE was going. And this was mainly for melee, so that melee could also get a line of sight away from all of that stuff.
So it's
taking a couple of ticks. And it wouldn't be that, but it does ramp up, so it starts doing more and more
basically,
and more damage.
They go back in, and they're taking like a lot of damage, but it's fine. Tyler1 screams out, "Big heals on me! Big heals on fucking me!" Everybody heals. Everybody heals back up, and everybody's cool. Everybody's chilling. I think some people fucked up a living bomb or something. Some people took some extra damage, but no big deal. Everything's going fine. Then the next AoE cycle begins. But the boss is really low. And so as people are beginning to think about running away, Tyler says, "Stay! Finish the fight!"
What? That is crazy.
But wait, guess what happens? What do you think people did when Tyler1 told them to stay in the AoE to kill the boss? They roached the fuck out, bro. Everybody roached the fuck out. They roached him so hard, bro. It was the biggest pack of roaches I've ever fucking seen in my goddamn life. And the best part about this is there's a ton of people saying, like, "Oh, the call came out late." Bullshit, bro. I've seen the VODs. The call did not come out late. You motherfuckers roached the fuck out. You roached harder than every single roach in Asmongold's house, bro. Y'all roached. They're just like, "Woo, see ya, kid." They were just like all in fucking Narnia. But as Tyler1 was screaming, "Finish the fight! Finish the fight!" And everybody was in Narnia, dude. Like, they weren't even remotely close to a position where they could hurt the boss. And again, I want to emphasize, I know that there's going to be people in the comment section disagreeing with me. It was absolutely the right call. If people had stayed...
What was the percentage of the boss?
I don't know what the percentage of the boss was, but the boss still died, even though more than 80% of the raid ran away, and the boss still died. Okay,
so they could have absolutely...
a million percent, like more than 80% of the raid was in fucking Narnia, and the 20% that stuck with Tyler killed the boss. Like, that's what happened. But obviously, because of the fact that 80% of the raid went to fucking Narnia, it caused quite a few deaths. I think like 11 people died or something like that. One of them was Tyler1. Now, now here's where things get really interesting. So Tyler1 has like this crash out VOD where he's just like, initially I thought I fucked up. And he's like, I might have made the wrong call. And let me just tell you, no, you did not make the wrong call. Now, you can say it was an unorthodox
Not if what you're telling me is true.
No. At 100%. This 100% happened.
Most people left and it still died.
Oh, yeah, it died.
Then that was 100%
like,
the right
listen,
call to make.
I don't know if the boss is like 5% or something. It was super low. And you're talking about these people have been farming classic because, it's hardcore. So they are...
Yeah, and a lot of people would have execute damage at this point, so they're doing a lot more damage.
They're brutally overgearing this boss. Like, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
But, people panicked and people roached the fuck out. Everybody ran. Like, it was literally the first tick of damage and people were in Narnia. The ticks of damage that you were telling me that only happened to warn the melee? Those were the ticks of damage that literally everybody was panicking over. I was like, oh my God, this is the end. We're all going to die. So people are scared of, like, I get it. You're scared of losing your character, but like they did him so fucking dirty because as people are running away, he is still screaming, "Finish the fight." and not even the ranged players are helping, okay? I understand, like, if you're a melee and you're running away, there's a bunch of ranged players that are like, nah, bro, I'm fucking out of here. You won't even see, I'm gone. Like, but here's where things get really interesting. So he does the crash out stream, and he pulls like some Death Note shit, where he brings in this notepad, because like, I've been watching the VODs from, because they're all streamers. Everybody in this raid is a streamer, so we can see everybody's shit. And number one, and let me tell you something, I was so happy that Tyler1 brought this up, dude. I was like, oh yes, dude, fucking yes. Tyler1 goes through the VODs and he's like, the fuck is this runaway bullshit in the middle of your screen? Are we playing World of WeakAuras? Like what the, I was like, oh yes, dude. Fucking tell him. Like, you know what it's like. Every single one of those guys was running fucking DVM. It's not even WeakAuras, it's DBM. And, you know, the second DVM says run away, they're no longer listening to Tyler1. They're like,
no, they're running away.
The big pop-up on screen tells me to run. Gotta run. Ignore what the raid leader is saying.
But that is, by the way, one of my gripes with things like add-ons.
Absolutely.
It's another thing, for those of you that don't know, I used to have my own guild for more than a decade. And I would raid lead, other people would raid lead. And one of the things that always drove me insane about what I call bad raid leaders are micromanagers. It's the people that call out every little thing before it happens. They basically just become a DBM call-out system at that point. The reason that drove me insane was
people don't learn.
People are lazy as shit. So if the raid leader is calling everything out, why should I even pay attention to anything? I'll just stand there and wait for the raid leader to call things out. And as a micromanager, things happen around you. You're involved with tactics that maybe take away your concentration. But then people can't adapt because the raid leader forgot to call out that they need to move, and they didn't look. They were just waiting for the call. And now everyone dies, right? And it's the same problem with add-ons. What add-ons do is it creates an over-reliance on the add-on, so you're no longer paying attention to anything else. So if the add-on gets something slightly wrong, or you don't see something as it's happening in the fight, you just die.
But the worst part is that it's not even about the add-on getting something wrong, because like usually add-ons get most of the tactics right. I get it. But it's like the problem
eventually, but in the beginning, it's usually not that.
But the problem is that if you're just paying attention to the add-on and you're not listening to your raid leader, what happens if your raid leader tries to do something different, which was the case? Because Tyler1 saw, okay, we're in kill range. We can just kill it and not waste any more time. And people were like, oh no, add-on says run away. I have to run away.
I'll run away,
that's pretty much what everybody did. Like I said, very small percentage of the raid actually stayed
So what did
behind
Tyler
the
do
fight.
with the Death Note stuff?
He was going through everyone's VODs and showing what people did. So number one was the whole thing about the add-ons, which I completely agree with. Like let's just be real for a second here. Literally everybody that's playing World of Warcraft retail right now, you guys aren't really playing World of Warcraft. You're playing Deadly Boss mods. Okay, let's just get that out of the way for starters. But then the thing was the people that were coming up. Okay, so here's something that I don't know if you've been following the OnlyFans drama, which I haven't really been super following it, but I have seen a couple of clips here and there.
I know the pirate software stuff.
So the pirate software stuff. What happened was when pirate software roached out, there was this guy in there called Yamato.
Yes.
And he was one of the biggest criticized because he was the guy who was saying, Pirate, why are you running? This is salvageable. And then like he gave Pirate a whole bunch of shit about accountability and about helping his friends and not roaching out and blah, blah, blah. Like this was the guy that was shitting the most on pirate software. I'm not exaggerating. Like this bro was doing like live streams all the fucking time, just like shitting all over pirate software. But there's more. At one point, this guy had to be punished. I don't know exactly what he did. I don't remember that part, but he had to be punished because of something that happened in the guild. And his punishment apparently was that you have to stand in the Gurubashi arena for 7 minutes. That's the punishment. And for people that don't know, what the hell does that mean? Gurubashi Arena is a place in World of Warcraft where the moment you go inside, you are PvP enabled for everyone, for people in your faction, for people
Horde
in the
Alliance,
option,
everyone fights.
Everybody can go in there and kill you. So that's why that was the punishment. And Tyler1 went out of his way to organize a 25-man raid party to go inside the arena with him so that he would survive, okay? So you're talking about Tyler1 went to bat for this guy, risked his character for this guy, okay? So he goes into Gurubashi Arena with him to ensure that Yamato survives, and there's a bunch of people trying to kill Yamato and whatnot. There was like this whole little bit of drama over that, and then people were upset.
Yeah, of course.
People were upset because Tyler1 went in there with the raid. People were upset at Tyler. Tyler's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care about any of this because Tyler1 doesn't care, right? Yeah. So when this whole thing goes down, of the moment where everybody is panicking, where do you think that this Yamato guy, who shit all over Pirate Software for roaching out, who got tremendous amount of aid from Tyler1, like this stand-up individual, where do you think he was when Tyler made the call, finish the fight?
Probably almost out of the raid.
Exactly. He was
gone.
So far away, dude. He was like not like I was wondering, was he even in melee range during the DPS phase, considering how fucking far away you are right now, bro? This guy was so far away. And the worst part, okay? Worst part, when Tyler1 dies, motherfucker cracks a smile, okay?
What? Oh,
bro,
wow.
Tyler1
That's
just like goes
Tyler.
in on this guy, just like, fucking you motherfucker, you piece of shit. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was glorious. It was such a glorious piece of drama. But I will say, Tyler1 was absolutely correct, because basically Tyler1 said that, like, these fucking WoW sweats, like, they don't actually play the game, blah, 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 blah. Now, he did made a mistake because when he criticized Zico, because he was talking about something about an ice blink or whatever, and Zico ice blinked some debuff or whatever it was. He did made a mistake there. But, like, in my opinion, everything that happened specifically because World of Warcraft players are just programmed to follow add-ons. That's their whole thing nowadays.
Yep.
And because of that, they see add-ons say run away, and they just completely ignored everything that Tyler1 said. Tyler1 was just like, stay, finish the fight. More than 80% of the raid just kept running. It was disgusting. Yeah. It was absolute roach behavior, and it got 11 people killed. And
well,
again,
you know, I think
I'm sorry, just one more thing. In a Pirate Software situation, you could say that, like, okay, the Pirate Software situation was weird because somebody was saying, run away, go back in, run away, go back in. In this situation, the only thing Tyler1 said is finish the fight, like 5 times or some shit. Finish the fight. Like, the call was clear. There was no room to doubt, and people panicked and roached the fuck out. And let me tell you something. If you're playing hardcore, even if you had died in that stand, that would have been one of the most epic send-offs. And you would have gone out like 11 people went out in a blaze of fucking glory. That was awesome. Yeah. That was fucking awesome. You know, at least you have a story for your fucking character, whereas all the other 80%, your story is you're a bunch of bitches, okay? When it comes right down to it, you're a bunch of bitches that fucking ran away.
We used to call it in our guild the golden kill.
Yeah.
It's the perfect kill. It's as you kill the boss, everyone dies. And that happens more often than you think. On Mythic, usually on like final bosses of a raid, everyone dies towards the end, and the game, the fight is basically finished with like the tank and one healer holding on, and that tank taking it from like 2% to 0. And then as the boss dies, the healer and the tank dies. And that's considered the golden kill, because you gave your life to take out this threat to Azeroth, you know? It's sort of like a bit of a roleplay thing for us. And I agree with you. I think, you know, fundamentally, Tyler1, from what I heard here, sounds like he is absolutely in the right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For making the call in the first place, especially since they already took down the boss. But I will just say, I have so many gripes with World of Warcraft and how World of Warcraft has changed over the years. This stuff will just happen. There's no way to get around that. It's sort of there's a bit of other drama as well that I don't know if you've been following it. It's not on our list, but it is probably worth talking about. Because it's in the same. It's in it's Asmongold, right? So Asmongold. I don't know. Have you seen any of the Asmongold stuff?
No, not really. I mean, the one Asmongold thing that I saw was that he was playing Gunlands in Monster Hunter Wilds, and I made a video about it. People weren't happy about that, but yeah. I was expecting
Asmongold has been increasingly more and more outspoken politically, right? He's become much more almost a political streamer than just a gaming streamer.
He's like the opposite side of the Hasan coin.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Hasan and Asmongold travel in the same circles.
Yeah.
They very much travel in the same circles, have the same friends and stuff of that nature. Now, Asmongold is, politically, Asmongold is a libertarian almost. He's very much in the middle. He doesn't like extremes on either sides of the aisle. And right now, in America, the left is the more extreme side. A lot of the things the left wants isn't stuff that most Americans want. That hasn't always been true. A lot of the times, the right have very extreme positions. I mean, Asmongold has called that out in the past, right? He doesn't like very extreme positions on things. But Asmongold has increasingly become, I guess you could say, from the outside. So I genuinely believe Asmongold is a centrist. But I think from the outside, it's easy to say Asmongold is more right-wing these days than what he is left-wing. Even though a lot of his takes and a lot of his core beliefs wouldn't jive with the right-wing conservative at all, he has more takes against the stuff that's happening on the left. He's very much in favor of the stuff that Elon and Trump is doing right now because it is dismantling a very corrupt state, in his opinion, right, from his perspective.
Before we go any further, I just want to point out, I don't really pay any attention to any of this shit. So,
no.
So yeah,
it's fine.
I don't know. I'm gonna believe what you're saying. So yeah, let's keep going.
This is just preamble, right? I'm just setting up because it is pertaining to the actual drama that is currently happening around Asmon. So Asmon has more and more sort of political takes, and his political takes do lean a lot more to the right than what they do to the left. Now, Hasan, on the other hand, has always been super political, except for that one stint at the beginning of his career when he was trying to do bro content, and no one actually believed that he was a bro. And that completely failed, and then he got onto the actual political grift, and he bought $3 million mansions in West Hollywood, all while saying communism is great, but living like a capitalist. Yeah. You know, the all communists are capitalists when no one's watching. That's basically how it always works, right? And so Hasan, I will remind you all, Hasan has had literal Haitian terrorists on his stream.
Haitian?
Running Haitian.
Houthi.
Or Houthi pirates.
It's very different.
He did have some stuff to say about some Haitian people as well. Different. But yeah, Houthi. Sorry. For some reason, I'm thinking about Haitian stuff because on my Twitter right now, there's like Haitian aid or something. Like Elon Musk is tweeting stuff about Haitian aid. So I have Haitian in my brain at the moment. And yes, I'm looking at Twitter while we're talking because you never know when breaking news might happen. But okay, so there's Houthi pirates that's literally on his stream apologizing or running apologetics effectively for piracy.
What do you mean?
And for doing
what do you mean running apologetics? Dude was straight up gassing it up. Like Hasan was gassing up the Houthi terrorist guy like I gas up Monster Hunter Wilds. Okay, bro.
Yeah, but the same way I ran the preamble for Asmon trying to be as faithful to their own explanations of what they're doing. I'm doing the same to Hasan. He would say at best, he was running apologetics for them, right? Because he's against imperialism, and piracy is all about that while capturing innocents and ransoming them off for money, right? But fundamentally, this dude has been pretty much anti-America in everything. Anti-everything good. Like, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, Hasan is against it. His takes are sometimes so extreme that it rises to the level of, oh, wait, could that be considered treason? Like, is he actually like just being a treasonous bastard at this point?
Christ.
Like, he has some extreme takes.
Yeah.
Guess who their friends think should be cut out of their lives.
Asmongold?
Yeah. There's increasingly people calling for Asmongold to be cut out of all content. In fact, they're sort of talking about NymphLol, MP Lol, the streamer, MP Nick.
Yeah, I know who it is. Nick Pollum.
Nick Pollum? Yeah. Nick Pollum was doing a live stream with Sinna. And Sinna was saying Emaru and all of these streamers have to distance themselves entirely, cut off Asmongold entirely. You can't be connected to someone saying toxic shit like that. Now, when you're saying cut him off entirely, what you're effectively saying is they have to either get him out of OTK or they have to leave OTK. They have to leave Starforge. They have to basically cut Asmongold out of everything. And the argument sort of is, well, if you're going to have that extreme of a take to Asmongold, a man that by every single account is one of the greatest guys IRL, like every single person I've ever heard that has worked closely with Asmongold says Asmongold genuinely cares about people. Like, he will go out of his way to help you. No matter what you're struggling with, he'll go out of his way to help you out, to be there for you. You know, this is a man that literally sticks with his friends when they're being cancelled, when people are calling them out. And he actually has the principles when his friends are actually guilty, he'll call them out on it. Right, that's exactly what happened with was it Rich?
It was Rich, yeah.
Yeah, when he knew that Rich was guilty, he did the hard thing of saying, "Screw you, bro. You actually did this shit, and it was disgusting." So here you have a man that clearly has principles, clearly cares about people around him, and he's the one that's being cut off, not Hasan. Like, Nick and all of those guys are still very close to Hasan. In fact, Nick has had Hasan run literal terrorist propaganda videos on Nick's stream while Nick is just sitting there.
No, it wasn't Nick's stream. I'm pretty sure it was Hasan's stream, and Nick was the one visiting.
It was
yeah.
in a...
It was in a... Yeah, I know what it is.
But there was another one where it was in a bedroom, and that's the only reason I didn't know if it was Hasan or Nick's stream.
Hilarious, bro. Like, Hasan just goes like, "Oh yeah, Hezbollah, yeah, they're considered a terrorist organization," and Nick Pollum just goes like, "I don't like them then because they're terrorists," and Hasan's like, "I don't have a problem with them. Let's just say." It's like, what the fuck?
But I mean, whether it was a Sun stream, because I know there was one with a Sun stream where he was sitting in a Sun stream room, and he was sort of just Hasan left the room and Nick's like just sitting there watching terrorist propaganda videos.
It's so ridiculous. Now
but there's another one where
getting back to the Asmongold thing, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about this whole they need to distance themselves from Asmongold or not. Like, I don't know that much in terms of what Asmongold is like in real life. I just know the stuff that I see from his streams, and I don't follow any of his political stuff. I follow this stuff whenever he talks about video games. That's pretty much where I'm at when it comes to Asmongold. But when it comes to the whole friends thing, like, I think that if people believe that if you're a friend of Asmongold and you think that he's got like the wrong views on something, I think that the right approach is, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this. I don't think that the right approach is like, yep, I'm cutting them off. Like, listen, I've had plenty of friends of mine in the past that have done some stuff that was not the most right stuff. Now, I'm not talking about like, you know, some really fucking criminal shit.
Yeah, no, not criminal shit.
Yeah, but
just
like
they said something that wasn't cool, or
not even said. I have friends that have done shit that it's not cool. And it's like, you know, I go up to my friends, not like I'll have a conversation, but like, hey, bro, like, you know, that's not cool, right? Like, you understand, like, we need to like fucking hash this out. And you talk to people. You don't just fucking roach out like people did to Tyler1. Like,
no, you definitely don't. But and I think
the thing is, a lot of the live streamer communities, I feel like it's something very reactionary, and it's usually all around live stream fails. So it's like the moment the pendulum of live stream fails swings one way or the other, there's a lot of people that swing with the same thing as whatever live stream fails is doing, which is abhorrent behavior, but whatever. It doesn't
Dude,
particularly surprise me.
It is fundamentally one of the reasons I don't really I don't really build streaming friends, right? I don't really get out of my way to be friends with other streamers. In my entire career of doing this, I've had a handful of actual friends that are also content creators. Because fundamentally, most content creators will stab you in the back as quickly as they can if it means that they can get ahead. If it means that they can find some kind of leg up. And especially if there's bags of money on the table. If there is a way for them to get more money, they will absolutely stab you in the back in order to get that bag.
I have a lot of friends that are content creators, and I don't believe they would ever stab me in the back. The thing is about
I'm not. Yeah, but remember, if I'm talking about this, I'm looking at what happens pretty much every single year, right? Every single year we have streamer drama where two streamers who were super close to each other just completely stab each other in the back for the bag.
Yeah.
Right? And you just go, whoa.
You do see that happen often in the industry for sure.
Yeah, it happens super often, right? So you might be lucky insofar as you have a bunch of streamer friends that happen to be really good guys, right? But I can guarantee you, I don't want to put a number on it because I wouldn't be able to back that number with facts. Yeah. But I'm willing to suggest that the majority of streamers out there are narcissistic little assholes. They think that they are the main character, and they'll do whatever needs done so that they can be the main character of the story. And if that means shoving your ass down down a cave, they'll do it. They'll stab you as soon as they can. And I think you have the same. You have the same stuff with, for example.
Wait, before we go any further, I do have to ask: who are the people that are saying that Nick Pollum and Emaru and all these people need to distance themselves from Asmongold?
So there's Sana that highlighted it in an actual live stream.
Who is that?
Sana is a fellow streamer, also in that orbit, sort of, with Nick Pollum and the like. Now, Nick didn't seem overly enthused or overly against it, but Nick just seemed like Nick. He was like, "Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying there." But the calls are growing, right? You go into the comments there, the calls are everywhere for Asmon to be cancelled, for Asmon to be removed.
People are very mad at Asmongold to the point where, like, when Asmongold did the. He played Gunlance in the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great because I can watch him play Gunlance, and that's going to let me, like, review the things that he's doing wrong because he's probably going to make a bunch of mistakes. And then I can use that as an educational video, just like I did with his Monster Hunter World content. Like, it was actually interesting because back when he went to Monster Hunter World, I went and I reacted to a couple of his hunts, and that allowed me to basically go, okay, see, here's what he did wrong. And, and people are interested because it's going to be Asmongold, big content creator, so a lot of people jump in to watch, and then I'm able to teach those people the things that he is doing wrong. Like, I had a lot of people in those VODs going like, oh, I didn't even know you could overcharge a greatsword. And it's like, yeah, you can. And here's how it works, and here's how you can do it right. So I would be doing this in World, and I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect to do in Wilds. And so he did the Gunlance thing, and I do my reaction, and then I upload it, and there were a lot of people that were getting really mad at me. And the thing was, some people were saying, like, why are you platforming Asmongold? And it's like, I'm not I can't platform Asmongold because his platform dwarfs mine to an exponential degree. So I can't platform Asmongold. And secondly, literally nothing of what I've watched was political in any way. This was all literally gameplay. It's just like straight up Monster Hunter gameplay. And the whole purpose is like, I can use this VOD to teach people how to become better at playing the Gunlance in Monster Hunter Wilds. And this is a perfect opportunity. I'm like, oh, he did this thing here. He could have done this. They would have scarred him out. He did this combo here. He could have done this one instead. It would have been more efficient. And it was great. I was like, I feel like this is a really good educational video. but everybody is focused on his politics, which is the last thing that I'm personally interested in. Like, I don't care. As a matter of fact, let me tell you something else that a lot of people are going to be mad that I'm going to say this, but like, let me tell you something. I don't give a fuck about anyone in this fucking sphere. I don't give a fuck about their politics. You included, by the way. I don't care because
I know.
Fundamentally,
I mean, that's part of our conversations pretty much weekly.
So it's like fundamentally, I am a political illiterate because I do not follow politics at all. I do not care. I don't care what anybody's politics are. I care about video games. I talk about video games, and I'll engage in some type of political conversation when it comes to the stuff that is happening around video games. But everything else, like Trump's in the White House and all, you know, what Elon Musk is doing, like, I don't care about any of this, okay? I live in Portugal. I am so far removed from all of these things at the moment that it is not even remotely close. And some people might think that that is irresponsible of me to not care about these things. But the reality is, in order for me to be able to give a take on a political subject, I feel like I need to be an expert in that subject. And if I'm not an expert in that subject, I'm not going to say anything because whatever I say is going to be a stupid opinion. So, for instance, I remember when the stuff happened in Gaza, like everybody was asking all the streamers and content creators, oh, what's your stance on the Gaza situation? It's like, why are we even asking this? The streamers and content creators, people who sit in their house all fucking day, live streaming and watching videos. We know nothing about the Israel-Palestine conflict. What the fuck? Why would you want to know how I feel about this? It shouldn't matter how I feel about this. I know nothing about it. It's so weird to me. Like all of this stuff, because like, listen, I care about video games. Okay, that's what I care about. So if Asmongold plays the video game that I'm playing, and I can use that to make an educational video, I'm gonna do that. It's just that simple. It's weird.
No, but I fundamentally agree with you, right? So, as you guys know, when the whole Trump inauguration happened and all of this stuff happened, what do we say at the offset of that first podcast? We're not covering this because it has nothing to do with video games.
Yeah.
The politics that I cover are video game politics, right? And I'm very well read on all things social video game politics. I know everything about that. Well, I won't say everything, but I know a lot about that, right? And I read a lot of papers and a lot of research papers. I try to keep myself up to date on all of the things that's happening in that space. But when it comes to Israel, Gaza, or Ukraine, Russia, I don't know anything about geopolitics. So when I have to give an opinion on that, my opinion is almost always going to be the most milquetoast opinion that you can get. Just because I don't know anything about that.
Let's stop killing people and then let's talk about it. How about that? How about we just stop killing people? That'd be like a good start.
My position.
That's my take.
My position.
My big hot take.
My position on Ukraine, Russia has been from the beginning. We need to get Putin and Vladimir Zelensky to fight it out in like a paintball court, but with real guns. Winner takes all.
They should
They're
just
the ones fighting. No one else
themselves.
fights.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know.
You know, and Benjamin nothing, whatever the hell his name is, and the Hamas leader get into the same court right after. We can bet on it. Who wins? Yeah. And the winner takes everything, right?
Everyone else stop murdering all of the other people that probably don't want anything to do with this goddamn mess. But
that's been my approach to it. So,
going
but the
back,
whole Asmon thing, the Asmon thing is just to see people who were friends 5 minutes ago suddenly cancel one streamer for having right-wing political talking points when their other friend who has the most extreme left-wing talking points is perfectly fine. That is, to me, disgusting. That I just find absolutely disgusting. Like, you can disagree with him, and what we do on this podcast all the time, we disagree about political stuff.
I think to me, it's not even just about like, oh, this friend is left-leaning, this friend is right-leaning. To me, it's just the concept of, if he's your friend, like, you need to go talk to your friend. Otherwise, are you really friends? That's it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. If somebody is your friend and they're doing something that you don't agree with, you have to at least talk to your friend. That's the way that I look at it. But when it comes to streaming, things do get weird. But I also feel like I'm maybe just a little bit too old and out of touch for all these clout wars. Like I'm just in my corner playing Monster Hunter, bro. So
I know, definitely. All right, so on to the next bit of political stuff.
Bro, we got through the first topic.
Yeah, we just finished. Well, we finished the second topic because we did have the Overwatch 2 topic.
Oh right, we did do the Overwatch thing. Wait, but that wasn't in the thing.
No, but it was added to the thing. So, I've updated the list already. It'll be in the chapters. It'll be
there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you saw, but there's an IGN writer.
I think I know
it's a freelance writer. Right? It's a freelance writer that absolutely went nuts. Let me just quickly find the actual tweet here. So, the writer is called Len at Tulfolk Fang. That's the writer for IGN and PC Gamer and a bunch of others, freelancer, that tweets out the following. I'll take a whole point off the review score for any future map games that call it the Gulf of America. You think I'm joking? You think I want to do this forever? I can start some fires on the way out. Try and call the bluff. I mean, and this might actually be the greatest fail of self-reflection I've ever seen in my entire life. Nobody has ever let this amount of soft power go to their head before, as far as I know. And I thought, you're a mainstream media writer. You really think anyone gives a shit about your review scores? So you want to talk soft power? You're talking about the literal leader of the free world, the man who is the president of the most powerful nation on earth, and he has soft power. But you, a freelance writer for the mainstream media, you're the one with the real power? What are we talking about here?
I don't know how these things get decided. Like if Trump actually has the power to change it from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
He can.
He can. He can just do that. Like that's something that.
Well, the Gulf of Mexico is just it's international water, right? So it's not owned by any of the two countries.
Well, doesn't he have to conquer it?
No, he can just say from now on we're referring to it as the Gulf of America. Plus, most people don't realize it.
Go ahead.
Most people don't realize this, but according to some people on my stream who informed me as to why Trump is doing this, there is an actual resolution that says that they cannot drill for oil in the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico is effectively protected. You can't drill for oil at all.
So if you change the name...
Yeah, there are shit tons of oil.
It's the Gulf of America now, so we can...
Yeah. That's literally it. Because the resolution says that they can't drill for oil there, and it's one of the richest areas for oil. Like there's a crap ton of oil in the Gulf of Mexico.
Trump played the ultimate trap card. What if I change the name? It's not the Gulf of Mexico anymore.
But at this point, the funniest thing ever is it's almost as if Trump is playing Civilization. Like he's just looking at it and going, so a couple more turns and this hex changes to my hex and I can just build stuff there.
So the thing is, you said it's international waters. That means that there's probably some politics and some red tape to take care of before you can actually name it the Gulf of America. I guess you can kind of force American organizations to refer to it as the Gulf of America. But I would imagine you can't force the rest of the world. Like Trump can't force Europe to refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. No, but he could be like, if you don't do it, then we're not going to help you when Russia invades the rest of Europe or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I don't know if it... Because I think it's mainly an agreement between Mexico and America. So if Mexico signs off on it...
Yeah, he's going to strong-arm Mexico into doing it.
Well, I don't even think he's going to strong on them. Because as much as America can't drill for the oil, Mexico control for the oil either.
Oh.
So if Trump goes to Mexico and he's like, hey, bros, what if we change the name?
We just
and
change
start
the
drilling for
name
oil,
and we can both
and
of us
everyone
can
gets rich. Yeah.
But
what do you say?
The point that I'm making is, I don't know what is the process that needs to happen for it to eventually be recognized.
No, I don't know either.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
For it to eventually be recognized as the Gulf of America. But when it comes to that, whatever outcome comes of this, right? Whether it does become known as Gulf of America or it does become known as the Gulf of Mexico forever. I mean, it remains the Gulf of Mexico forever.
Yeah.
I would expect people who want to do video games that reflect current day situations to refer to it by its proper name. That's it. And if you're going to dock points for accuracy, I mean, that says a lot more about you than about anybody else. That's the way that I look at it. But
so my main problem with this and my main issue with what's just been admitted here is that reviews are no longer serious. Remember, the point of a game review
is
one to
reviewer.
give you...
It's one unhinged game reviewer. That's it.
Yeah, but the problem is, right, this game reviewer is still employed, is still writing for all of these articles. None of them, like IGN or PC Gamer, came out in sort of opposition and said, hold on, that's not how we run our reviews.
Yeah, but you want to know
why? You can't do that.
This is the best part. This is actually the best part. They're not going to do it because they know that this type of controversy generates clicks. They know that whatever the next 3 or 4 reviews that this person posts on the website is going to have extra clicks. Hell, they might even be in on the racket. They might even be in on it. They might have even pushed her to do it.
Here. Yeah, but that's exactly my point, right? And I'm not saying this from a position of there's no other substantiating evidence, right? We have seen reviews become more and more not just about how good is the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I purposefully don't use the word political because in a lot of reviews there isn't that much discussion about politics, but you do look at the games that they're reviewing, you look at the review scores and you go, wait, but how is it that every single time you give a game a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, the game flops? Like something's wrong with your reviewing. And now you have an actual reviewer for IGN coming out and saying, I will deduct a point. In other words, your game starts at -1, and then it has to work its way up. But the -1 is always going to be there. So if you did make a 9 out of 10 game, it's going to be 8 out of 10 because you called it Gulf of America. That's not how reviews are supposed to work. Reviews aren't supposed to be influenced by the political stance of the developer. But they're supposed to be, was the graphics good? Was the visuals good? Was the art direction good? The music, the gameplay, the combat? Did you have fun? Did the story make coherent sense? In fact, I would say that reviewers, when it comes to the story of a video game, the only thing a viewer can really offer is an opinion piece at the end saying the story didn't really land for me, but it was still a well-told story, right? It was still well-told. I just didn't really vibe with that story. But you can't really objectively give a story a score because stories are subjective as hell. You can absolutely critique the narrative style and the narration of the story because that's actual technical work, right? But was it an actual good story?
I think you can. I think you can. There are some stories that I think you can consider inherently bad. I think there are definitely some stories. Like, for instance, the Star Wars sequels, they're bad. They're not just poorly told, the stories are bad. Like, objectively bad.
Well, actually, this is again where we get into it. What makes the stories bad is objective narrative mistakes. The way Rey is never actually set up.
Yeah.
There's no actual hero's journey. Remember, that's a writing technical issue because every writer knows that for an audience to connect to the main protagonist, there has to be a hero's journey. There has to be a reason why I'm connecting to this character, right? Otherwise, what the hell are we doing?
I don't think it necessarily needs a reason, but you have to be able to present it in a way that resonates, and that's where they failed.
but that would fall into what I studied at university,
Yeah.
which or as the part of what we studied at university, oral interpretation and text analysis. Right. So oral interpretation and text analysis isn't about looking at the quality of a story. It's about looking at the quality of the writing of a story. So I can't comment on whether or not Macbeth is an actually good story, right? Because it might not be good for me. I might not like the plot. I might not like the characters. But I can comment on how it was written. So was it written well? And Macbeth was written phenomenally well. Shakespeare was a phenomenal writer. He did all of the right things. I happen to not be a fan of Macbeth. Like, I won't go watch a play of Macbeth, right? But I can absolutely see the brilliance of Macbeth's writing.
By the way,
in the same way that I can look at Veilguard and say, even if
Veilguard
the
was
plot
amazing, bro.
of Veilguard
was amazing.
Well, here's the thing.
10 out of 10.
I can look at Veilguard and say the plot of Veilguard is very cool. You have these elven gods that's trying to destroy the world. I mean, it's a plot that could get me excited. But then I look at the physical writing mechanics of Veilguard and I go, you do nothing to actually heighten the plot, to actually make me capable of buying into your plot. Your writing style and your writing technique just leaves much to be desired. This is why a lot of books you'll read from authors and the book just doesn't land because the author writes poorly. Not that the story is bad, the author just writes very, very poorly. So this is sort of my whole thing with reviews. You can absolutely make a review about all of those elements within the game, but now we sort of get this admission that reviewers are allowed to just deduct points for stuff that they don't like. So if the developer says something that I don't like, I'll just deduct points.
See, this is the thing where I've never taken points in video games too seriously. This is why whenever I do a review of a video game, I don't assign points. It's because boiling down a video game to a single digit number, or even like a triple digit number, whatever, depending on what scoring system you're using, it's very reductive. And especially the way that I sometimes hear them talk about, okay, so I give this much to graphics, I give this much to gameplay, and it's like, I get it. You're trying to make a structure out of it. I don't think that that's a particularly good way of doing things, and it has led to some of the worst reviews I've ever seen in my life, where people shit all over Lost Planet 2, and Lost Planet 2 is a phenomenal game, where people shit all over Demon Souls when it initially came out on the PlayStation 3, and Demon Souls is looked at as a cult classic, as, you know, it was the first Souls game ever made, and it's one of the best games ever made. So it's just one of those things where I have a tough time taking review scores seriously, and especially when it comes to outlets like IGN, where they will give like certain scores that, like, I think, was it
Veilguard got a 9 out of 10, bro.
What? A Dustborn got a 9 out of 10? Okay, Dustborn gets a 9 out of 10.
It got 76 concurrent viewers. 76 concurrent viewers. The game objectively failed miserably. It got a 9 out of 10 from IGN.
But whatever. So it's like, and then you have Veilguard also had a 9 out of 10. Then you had another recent game that came out, and they scored it like an 8. So it's like, it makes it hard. But again, it all depends on who is reviewing it. But ultimately, I think we're giving this person just way too much credit. Like, who cares? Who actually cares?
I would say
she can do whatever she wants. And the thing is, I think it was a lady, because I remember seeing her profile picture. Sorry if
it's a dude that thinks he's a lady. Yeah.
Why do you have to say it like that, bro?
Because the only thing he did was shave his beard, and now he's a lady. That's literally it.
Anyway,
like, there's no difference. But anyways, I agree with you, except for one problem. There's one problem. It's not for you and me. We, the people that's watching our podcast, they're informed.
Oh, right? You mean
they're
for the
informed.
people that don't know? Yeah, and they get
oh yeah, the vast majority of gamers are not on YouTube watching YouTube videos.
True.
They're not clued in on the culture war stuff or on any of that stuff. So, and here's the thing. Game companies absolutely use the 9 out of 10 and the reviews on their marketing to say, look at all these media companies that gave us a 9 out of 10.
Trailers.
Yeah, right? That absolutely is used. So for normal Andes, this stuff is incredibly deceptive. And that's why it should be called out, because a normal Andy looks at Veilguard and goes 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Dude, this game must be amazing. I'll just go buy it with my hard-earned money that increasingly these days I have less and less of. I'll go spend it on this game that is objectively not a good game, but it's good because there's a non-binary character in there, right? And it's just sort of like, come on, bro. This needs to be fought. This cannot be allowed in video game reviews, no matter how scumbag the companies want to be. IGN can be as super left-wing as they want, but reviews in how it's being used for the general public has to be kept sacred. Because it's not just used as articles and clickbait. It's actually used in marketing.
I think that the solution to that is the general public just needs to be more informed. I think that's it.
That would be a phenomenal thing.
Yeah, it would. It would be amazing.
It would be amazing.
The general public just needs to be more informed. That's literally the only solution. Because reviews nowadays, you either know the person who is reviewing the game, or you're doing yourself a disservice by just reading a random review. Because there are, like I said, there are good mainstream gaming journalists out there, but there's also bad mainstream gaming journalists out there. You know, it's the same as pretty much any other community, right? There's the good apples and the bad apples. And obviously someone who is going to dock points for a game over, using an accurate term, again, assuming that this goes forward, that it's just like this person is not a professional. It's just that simple. It is what it is.
Yeah. So I absolutely agree with you. For our next topic, sticking with the culture war, as you guys know, we sort of try to get the drama stuff out of the way before we get into the more fun stuff.
I haven't heard anything about this next one.
All right, so South of Midnight. You have heard about that,
Yeah,
right?
I've heard about the game. The big thing about this game is it's so weird to me the way that they're doing animations, because it's like, sometimes it's 60 FPS, and then sometimes it's like 24, whatever it is. And then it goes back to, like, they were showing a trailer on one of the Xbox shows. And I was just like so weirded out, because I'm like, okay, you do understand, because apparently people were saying that this is something that you can swap between. And I was like, you do understand that having that feature is one thing, but you have to stick with one style for the trailers, because otherwise it just looks like, oh, here it's running smoothly, and then here it's running choppy. Then here it's running smoothly again, and now it's running choppy again. And I was just like, I was so put off by that. I'm like, damn, bro, I don't know what you guys are doing, but that's messed up.
So obviously with South of Midnight, and I absolutely agree with you. I mean, we discussed it, I remember, before you even watched the trailer.
Yeah.
And those were my exact complaints. So I'm happy to see that you absolutely agree. But it's not just you and I that agree on this. All of the mainstream media is giving this game glowing preview scores, right? According to the preview, they're all saying this is the next big game. Then you get to the actual YouTubers, like Mr. Matty Plays and Skill Up. And there's even another reviewer over in Holland that does Dutch reviews.
Wait. This seems familiar.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit of deja vu from another video game.
Yeah.
It's even the same names.
But it's very interesting. So the Dutch reviewer actually says, after spending time with the preview, they genuinely cannot recommend this game to anyone because the gameplay is, and this was the thing that I told you, even from the trailers that they showed, the gameplay is incredibly repetitive. Like, once you actually get into it, you're basically just doing the same shit over and over and over and over and over again. There's very little variation, at least in the preview build that they saw, which is only the first chapter. And then you have Mr. Matty Plays and Skill Up. Now, their reviews, once again, and this is why, by the way, remember back in Veilguard, there were all these rumors about how BioWare purposefully didn't send out review codes to most reviewers, and only a handful got it. And there is a reason for it. Skill Up and Mr. Matty Plays, these guys tend to be a bit more safe.
Not recently.
Right? They don't. No, absolutely not recently.
These guys are loose cannons.
Yeah, but normally Skill Up and Mr. Matty Plays will sort of run the line, right? They'll walk the line. They won't go too far into one. And in this case, they did, again, kind of walk the line, but it's very interesting when you watch their videos on it, because both of them basically say the exact same thing. And I will paraphrase it as such. The game is only 12 hours, and that's a good thing, because this game isn't for its gameplay or for its combat.
Bro!
This game really is meant to just be a single experience and vibes.
Bro, it's just like the way that you said that. The game is only 12 hours, and that's a good thing, but that's the best part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the
best part is that it's only 12 hours. All right?
Yeah.
Bro, that is vicious. That is a vicious review.
Skill Up literally says that the game is good more for the vibes. Which is like, oh, crap. If you read between the lines there, the game is really not that good. But I sort of get it. Skill Up tries to stay as unpolitical as possible. Mr. Matty Plays also not really super into the politics. And here you have a very risky political landmine of a game. This is a game that has a very strong black female protagonist. It's set in the South. It's very much dealing with like Southern black culture. If you say anything too negative, you're absolutely going to get attacked, right? Like, just 100%, there's going to be people coming out saying, how dare you be racist?
I don't think that they would hold back based on that. Considering the way
you'd be surprised how...
No, listen, after the way that Skill Up just tore a new one into Veilguard, nah. I mean, wouldn't you also be canceled because you criticized Tosh?
Not necessarily. So the thing with self-censorship that makes it a very interesting... So I'm currently reading a bunch of studies on self-censorship. Self-censorship is very powerful because, remember, racism has been a cultural no-no for much longer than transphobia or non-binary phobia or any of that bullshit, right? Racism is sort of it's in our systems. It's wrong. You're just not racist. And so when you come up with an opinion on something that brushes up against that no-no, people will self-regulate.
Nah,
they'll purposefully pull back on their opinion a little bit to where they feel a bit more comfortable. And the whole thing with self-censorship that makes it so powerful is you don't necessarily even know that you're doing it. Right? It just happens. It's sort of just a response that you have. Now, I'm not suggesting that is what Skill Up and Mr. Matty Plays is doing. I'm just saying it's interesting how they phrased their sort of praise for the game comes across as not praise. It's not really praise when you tell me the best part of this game is the vibes. Like, okay, well, so in other words, the gameplay sucks, the story sucks, the combat sucks, the vibes is cool. Okay, great. That's not massively reassuring.
I don't know if that's what they meant, but yeah, I don't know.
No, but that's how it came across, right? He had a whole review where he praised some of the stuff, criticized a lot of the stuff. Mr. Matty Plays pretty much the same thing. It was from Mr. Matty Plays where he purposefully said the game is 10 to 12 hour games, and that's a good thing. That makes sense.
That's a good thing,
right? Because it's meant to be. Well, I'm saying it's a good thing. He said it's meant to be more of like a narrative experience, and then it's over because the gameplay and stuff isn't that great for the game. But apparently that is sort of a compulsion games thing. They focus less on gameplay and a lot more on story. The issue here, of course, is this was supposed to be their first game where gameplay was going to be a big part of the game, right? Where combat and that stuff was actually supposed to be celebrated. They'd put all of this effort into building different combat builds, and, it's going to be super reactive combat and the like. And apparently it all fell a little bit flat. But now, here's where the big issues for this game starts to rear its very ugly little head. So there is a developer, a community manager, that is currently working for Compulsion Games. The community manager is called, her handle is Pika Cholita, Katie, and it's Liberate with a bunch of flags. You can imagine the flags on the name, obviously. They tweeted a bunch of really interesting things prior to being hired by Compulsion Games. So one of the things that was tweeted by this person is, honestly, I hate gamers. That's a literal thing tweeted by a literal community manager for a literal gaming company, right? A studio that makes video games. Then Katie also tweets out, we also need to be very honest about the elephant in the room. The majority of the perpetrators are white adjacent, cishet men. I gotta ask, what the F is wrong with y'all, right? What they're talking about here is the sheer level of scum-sucking filth that permeates the gaming community is abhorrent. I'm disgusted to even share an interest with so many terrible people. Talking about people who don't want politics in their video games. Another article that was written about this, Katie, to really get a sense of who she is, though, look at her feed. Her tweets and retweets are both blunt and fearless, and they might not be for everyone. Robinson is okay with that. You're not going to tickle some people's fancy being outspoken or tweeting things like I do when I say white male gamers were a mistake. Again, this is a person that is currently a community manager for Compulsion Video Games. Also another tweet from Katie. Asian and white, aka white adjacent. After all of these tweets, this happened before Katie was hired to work at Compulsion Games.
Okay, look.
Not while, before.
I'm not going to again, this is such a weird thing to me. I don't like getting into these things, but it's like that's racist as fuck. Like that's pretty much the way that it goes. You replace the word white with literally anything else, and that's like, you're insta canceled. And not only that, but it's just like brutally disgusting beyond the fact that it's just fucking bro.
Dude,
I mean, hell,
I'll just give you.
It's not even. Apparently, it's not even just racist against white people. Which, to be honest, as I'm kind of like getting used to seeing that parroted in Twitter sometimes, and I'm like, whatever, I don't care. Mm-hmm. Whatever you say, whatever.
Yeah, I really don't give a shit.
I don't care anymore. But like on top of it, you go after like, and white adjacents. Like, what the fuck does that mean? It's like it's again Asian. That whole thing where, like I've always said. As gamers as a community, we have a lot more in common than we have against each other. And it just fucking sucks that there's always people that are trying to separate us based on whatever the fuck you want. Sometimes they separate you by race. Sometimes they separate you by age. Sometimes like they're just trying to separate people. Like that's it. And it's just like, why? Why, bro? Why can't we all just play video games and have fun? Like that's it. White male gamers were a mistake. Well, I'm sorry. Like, what the fuck? What am I supposed to say to that?
But I mean, you look at the other tweets that this person has, like, for example, and oftentimes the proof really is in the wording of things. I was wondering why I had so many mayo in my mentions, and apparently he found my tweet. Mayo referring to white people. Then you have, and I'm not even allowed to say this word on YouTube because YouTube will absolutely demonetize, but there's pictures, literal pictures being tweeted out calling people the C word, right? Sort of like cookie, but the other word for a salty cookie. Just tweeting that out at people.
We can't say that in YouTube?
Well, even Hasan's mods got banned on Twitch for using that. So I'm not sure if you're allowed to say that, but you guys can probably, it's firecrackers.
Yeah, we get it.
Fireworks, that sort of thing. But fundamentally, this is the sort of stuff that a community manager working for Compulsion Games is tweeting out. Community manager. What does a community manager do?
They manage
the community
of
gamers. Like of actual people who needs to buy and support your video game. And this is the kind of stuff that they're tweeting out. Now, of course, all of this will be forgiven because in their bio, after saying community manager at Compulsion Games, they go views equal my own, right? And it's like, no, it does not, because you have your literal employer in your bio, you scumbag. That's
God.
not how this works.
That is so weird, bro. I don't understand. I just really don't understand. You don't like gamers in general, because she even used that blanket term, not even without any like distinction between races or whatever. She was just like, she doesn't like gamers, and she applies for a job as a community manager of gamers. I mean, the one thing that comes to mind there is like, does she just want power over gamers? Like, is that what we're like? It's I don't know, bro. Some people are fucking weird, and I usually don't get involved with people that are weird, so it is what it is. And by the way, I know a lot of community managers. Pretty much all of the interactions that I've had with community managers in the industry have been positive. So it just kind of sucks whenever you see some community managers give a bad name to all these other awesome community managers that I interact with on a daily basis.
You see, but from my perspective, this reflects for me 100% on Compulsion Games, and why no gamer should support Compulsion Games. Because if a studio knowingly hires a person like this person tweeted this stuff before you ever employed them. That absolutely shows that the studio shares these opinions.
See, I don't agree with that. Why would you say the studio shares these opinions? The studio hires a community manager, which means they didn't have a community manager before, most likely. That would be my assumption, because you're hiring a community manager. And it always depends also on the size of your studio. So if they're like a big studio, like a Ubisoft, obviously they would have other community managers before hiring somebody. But if it's a smaller studio, I don't know the size of South of Midnight, they might have not done a background check because they don't have the people to do a background check. They're just like, this person looks like they know what they're doing. Let's hire them. And that's it.
Well, I would say, and this is basic practice, and it has been basic practice for almost every company. Even small mom and pop stores do this nowadays. You check their Twitter. You're literally hiring them to be the community manager running your Twitter account. You're probably going to check the tweets that they write. And when you find a community manager that is literally telling the majority of your gamers, because you are a Western gaming studio, that they hate them, maybe don't. And also should mention, even after all of this stuff came out, Compulsion has not fired them. Sort of the same thing with the Blizzard developer. The Blizzard developer that we spoke about last week that tweeted out. Well, I would say you absolutely can. In almost every country in the world, labor laws do permit you to fire someone that is actively harming your business.
Yeah, but
like if someone is actively chasing people,
you have to prove it in a court of law. Otherwise, you're liable to get sued, I would imagine.
It's not really hard to prove. Your gamers are majority white. You have a community manager is telling all white people to go kill themselves. That's a weird.
As she actually
that's
said
a weird thing
white
to
people
not
to go kill themselves.
I'm talking about the Blizzard one, the guy that we spoke about last week, where he said "kill your local MAGA," which
that's
means
not all white people. It's like
according to them, it's always just white people. But never mind.
The thing to me is, I don't know from a legal standpoint how easy it is to just fire somebody. That might be something to take into account. Because
I know South Africa has some of the harshest labor laws in the world.
Yeah, but
it protects workers everywhere, and here. If someone does something that actively harms your business, like actively just chases customers away, and they would be able to prove that because there's outrage at the moment online over this person. So they can absolutely show a judge, dude, we have thousands of people who are outraged at what has just been said here.
So let me give you an example. When I was a teenager, I remember this situation specifically. My father had a company. And there was this worker who was just like, he was slacking off. He was, he would cut work, not show up and shit, just be like a general nuisance to the company. And at one point, my father's like trying to have a meeting. Dude just cusses my father out, tells him to go fuck himself. He's not going to come to work tomorrow. And I remember my dad was raked over the coals before he was able to fire this person. And you're talking about just like fucking small ass company in Portugal. And it was a pain in the ass to fire somebody who is clearly just being an asshole. Okay? Just straight up not working, not showing up, and being downright disrespectful when talking to his boss. So it's like, okay. So if it's a pain in the ass to fire this person here, it's like I can't even imagine with the way that things have been going in the U.S., especially because like I don't know if this is maybe a person of color or not. I don't know anything about this Katie or Kate person, whatever. So it's like
no, she's black.
There you go. That can be another situation. Like I don't know how hard it is to fire this person.
Their Compulsion Games is Canadian, not.
Isn't Canadian even worse when it comes to that stuff?
Yeah, but again,
I don't know how hard it is to get rid of them.
Well,
that's the thing.
South Africa's labor laws are modeled after countries like Canada, countries in Europe, very strict, right? And even here, you're right. It is almost impossible to fire a bad employee. In South Africa, for example, if someone is super terrible at their job, it's first warning, it's first a verbal warning, then it's a written warning, then it's a final warning. Then you go to like an actual mediation where it's a trial basically, but it's not really in the courts, where you now have to prove that this worker's behavior actually harmed the company. So it can't just be that they aren't a good worker. If it doesn't rise to the level of actually harming the company, you're not getting rid of the worker. It's super difficult to get rid of them. But that's the one exception. The one exemption is if they do stuff that actively harms the business. Because at that point, it becomes your actions is putting other workers at risk. Because the business could go under, then other people lose their jobs as well. So in most countries in the world, that is the standard. Not in America, they have at-will employment. They're one of the few countries that still have that. But in most super socialist countries or socialist-adjacent countries, that's sort of the bare minimum, or the bare maximum, really. You can fire someone if they're actively harming your company. But even then, even just coming out and saying, we completely disavow what this person is saying, would also at least show that the studio isn't actively supporting. But again, the studio is quiet. Quiet like a mouse. Blizzard, the same thing. After one of their developers literally says, kill your local MAGA, Blizzard says nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, they don't make a peep. In fact, we now have inside information that says not only was nothing done, Blizzard developers were celebrating what this person tweeted in the internal Slack messaging system. So, you know.
I mean, the thing is, I think that sometimes companies are wondering, oh, should I engage with this and put more attention into it? Because I know that that's been something that I've dealt with in the past where I've had some people target me over difference of opinions and they'll like make videos about me and shit. And then I'm like, should I actually engage with this and draw even more attention to it and just going to make it into a big pissing match that I don't want to, even invest my time into?
My bar on that has always been, is what they're saying just objectively against what I believe? So are they actively lying about me?
Yeah.
Or are they just misunderstanding? Because if they're just saying a bunch of nonsense and I go, okay, never mind. Right? If someone makes a video and they just go, you're a racist, I'd be like, who cares? Let them say what they want. I know I'm not a racist. I couldn't care less, right? I'm not going to engage with this crap. But if someone purposefully misunderstands something that I said, and now making videos about the thing that I said, but it's complete misunderstanding, then I will engage because you're misrepresenting my arguments.
Let me tell you.
That wasn't my argument, right?
In my experience, that is also a waste of time because if they misrepresented you once, they will misrepresent you again and milk you for everything you're worth.
Yeah, but I'm also not a company. Right? If I were selling things to the general public and one of my editors, for example, were tweeting out some of the most unhinged shit ever, I would publicly disavow that. I would be like, whoa. my developer is tweeting out Austrian painter memes, I am not going along with that. That is not part of what I believe. I have fired them. I don't want to work with that anymore, right? So 100%, I do think there's a limit to where you as a company are now almost required to speak out, because I think that's where it should be. If your silence means complicity, you need to speak out, right? Because at this point, if Compulsion Games says nothing, they're complicit in it. They're supporting it.
That's one of the issues with having like rogue community managers, is that essentially the community manager does represent your company. So what they say goes, because they are your community manager. And therefore, if you don't say anything, then you are tacitly accepting what these people are saying.
Yeah, and community managers are front-facing.
Absolutely.
Right? Developers are actually back-facing. They're not supposed to really speak to the public. That's why you have community managers, so that they can speak to the public, and your developers don't have to speak to the public, because most developers are introverts. They don't really want to speak too much to the public. I know so many developers that don't even have Twitters or X accounts, because they don't like it. They don't like the idea of it. They want to make their video games and go home and play video games. So from one, sort of mace to the opposite side of the mace.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about the anti-woke movement.
Oh, my.
But we're going to be talking against a lot of the anti-woke movement today.
Oh, my. Am I going to get blamed for this? You're the one bringing it up.
No.
I just want to make it clear. Accolonn's the one bringing it up.
So I have always viewed myself as relatively principled as far as it's possible to be principled. I have a very specific thing that I'm fighting, and I don't allow my fight to leach into other areas that I don't deem important. The thing that I'm fighting, and the thing that the anti-woke movement should be fighting, and I've said this since day one, is the politicization of video games. That's it. Nothing else. We're not here to police what can be in video games. We're not here to police what people are allowed to wear or not allowed to wear. We're not here to do that. We're here to call to attention when games become overtly political, when choices are made overtly politically, right? That's the only job we have, because there is no current rating system for that. I think I said this to you even. The reason I don't care about the Gunnergate stuff, the reason I don't care about naked females in video games, there's already ratings for that, right? So I don't have to call it to attention. It's already at attention. Now, the KCD2 drama, I think, has revealed a number of very interesting individuals within the space.
Listen,
right?
Accolonn, I have to quote a comment that we got on the previous Mythic Banter. Okay?
Okay.
Listen. It's only gay if you push back. I forget who said it, but that one stuck with me. I was like, oh, that's how it works. I wasn't aware. It's only gay if you push back, okay?
Yeah. Now, the KCD2 drama, I've made my position on this super clear. Because fundamentally, I think there are three types of video games. There are the overt woke video game, where you can blame DEI and wokeness for the failure of that game. I would say Dragon Age the Veilguard falls into this camp.
I don't agree.
Here's why. People tend to think of wokeness in video games purely as the story that is being told in the video game. Remember, DEI also includes the people that was hired to make the video game.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say the level of game design for Dragon Age the Veilguard, the decisions that were made, shows me that people who were highly unqualified to make this video game made this video game. And politics was the main driver.
I'm just going to make the argument that we don't actually know that was the case, and it could have just been they just had some fucking incompetent writers. They could have been white for all I care. They could have just been straight white males.
Hold up. I just want to be clear here. I am not suggesting that DI is only black people.
Yeah, no.
Remember, the whole point of DI pushes this idea that you're hiring with prejudice. So you're hiring specific people because they tick a specific little box. You're not hiring based on merit. You're not hiring based on who is the best for the job. I'll give you a great example of where this is absolutely a black person.
So wait, so you think that in a company that is mostly run by black people, that DEI could potentially force the hiring of white people?
Normally, they don't really go that because they don't see white people as diverse, right? But if a black studio hires a white person purely to have a white person, that is absolutely DEI. Why do you need a white person in your studio? Yeah, why do you need a white person in your studio? If you should be hiring based on merit, right? Only merit. That's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
Mike Pondsmith, for example, is a black writer
that's the Cyberpunk
that
guy,
created
right?
Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, right? Phenomenal writer. No one else could have written Cyberpunk 2020 but him. He was incredible, and it's an incredible read, the source book for Cyberpunk 2020. So I don't mind just hire based on merit. Looking at that game, it's clear that hiring wasn't done based on merit. Looking at things that Ubisoft these days make, hiring isn't done based on merit because they can't seem to figure out how to make a good game.
When you say looking at that game, you're talking about Veilguard, right?
I'm talking about Veilguard.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Star Wars Outlaws. I'm talking about... I can't really talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows because we haven't really gotten our hands on it yet to really test it out. But there are multiple games where you look at how the games are going and how the games are playing and the decisions that are made, and you just go, did you really hire the best people for the job, or did you hire people based on a checklist of what you wanted to achieve? That still falls into the DI. So Veilguard, for me, 100% failed because of DI and wokeness, either in the game or around the hiring of the game. Then you get what I would call games that have woke elements, right? So there's elements of wokeness within the game, but the game itself still allows freedom, right? So there's a potential freedom within the game. And for me, Baldur's Gate 3 falls into this category. Can you play Baldur's Gate 3 super woke? Yes, you can. Right? You can play the gayest playthrough of your life and have the time of your life doing it as well. Can you play Baldur's Gate 3 as the most conservative person in the world? Yes, you can, and you can have a wonderful time doing it. The game isn't preaching to you. It's not trying to force any political opinion upon you. It just offers you choice, and you can go that route.
I would say that I played Baldur's Gate 3 very conservatively. I butchered every single goblin I could find. I think that's I killed all the greenskins.
Some might say that's anti-Jewish, but
Wait, what? What the fuck?
Dude, there's genuinely people who say goblins just represent Jews. Yeah, there's genuine people who say that. They don't realize how racist that is, but that is genuinely what they say.
Oh my god, dude!
Yeah, bro, it's wild out here.
What the fuck?
But the thing is, right?
The things I'm learning.
I love how Rurikhan accidentally, without even meaning it, role-played the Austrian painter in Baldur's Gate.
Bro, stop! Fucking stop! What the fuck? What?
It all happened with the Harry Potter stuff, right? So the Harry Potter stuff, because the goblins run the banks.
I do remember.
A bunch of leftists
something
were
about,
like, "How dare you?"
I do. Oh yeah, I do remember something about that. Now that you mention it, yeah, I remember.
And everyone else.
Yeah, I remember that. Wasn't this around when they even had that fucking page that was seeing the streamers who had played it or whatever the fuck, and then they started to talk about, I see the Jewish depiction in the video game, and it's the goblins. And I was like, what the fuck, bro? That's like self-reporting to the max. Like, what are you saying?
Yeah. Everyone else was just going, well, that's a little racist. I
a
thought
little
they were
bit.
just goblins. Like, I genuinely didn't think they were Jewish, but okay. And then you have what I think is a sort of like a special category. Highly politicized video games, but they don't go woke or unwoke. They are just super political. This would be basically everything Hideo Kojima has ever made.
Yep.
Right? That's just how it is. He does political video games, but he does it masterfully. those are your three types of video games. There is a fourth category, but no games currently, or I would argue, has ever fallen into this category, and that would be the super unwoke video game. In other words, there's no woke elements in the game. There's nothing to be woke within the video game.
There is. There's one that I will tell you. This what was it called? Right to Retribution, or whatever the fuck it was.
The hell game is that?
Angry Joe has like a video. This is like an oldie, okay? Only the OGs will remember this. It's something about hell, right to retribution, whatever it is. This is a video game where you literally save like a hot chick from getting raped, and not even like 2 seconds afterwards, you're having sex with her.
Oh, cool. I mean, if it works, it works. But maybe like super old games could fall in the category, but modern day games don't. And when I say modern day games, we're going back to 2005, right? Like now there's this subset of the community of the anti-woke group, people like Torch Gaming, Pirate Nation, John Del Aro.
Okay, listen, that Pirate Nation guy, that guy is an asshole, and he is one of the biggest tourists I've ever seen in my fucking life, bro. The other day, this motherfucker posts like a picture of a Monster Hunter game, okay? He posts a picture of Monster Hunter Generations, all right? And then he posts a picture of Monster Hunter Wilds. The difference is like in Monster Hunter Generations, he puts his character looking at a vista. So it's like one of the beautiful scenes of the game. And then in Monster Hunter Wilds, he bumps the graphics down to medium and puts the character's face up against the fucking tent. Okay, that's it.
Oh.
And then he's like, oh, what happened to video games? And then he also dated the games incorrectly, because he put that Monster Hunter Generations came out in 2005, which it didn't. And the specific screenshot that he used was from the Switch version of the game, which came out in like 2018 or something like that. So it was just like blatant misinformation. Everything that he was talking about this was completely wrong by every conceivable metric. And it doesn't take into account that like Generations has like loading between areas, whereas Wilds is like an open world game. And he just showed Wilds in the most unfavorable, disingenuous light possible.
Yeah.
And so I just put up a quote tweet, and I was like, this is such levels of bullshit. And that motherfucker got ratioed so hard he deleted his original tweet, bro. What a fucking loser. But this is, so what you just said, everything about Pirate Nation is true about John Del Aro. It's true of Torch Gaming. It's true of a lot of these guys. These people are tourists that are just there to fucking rage bait. That's it.
They're literally the ones rage baiting all of this stuff. And I have made it a personal mission of mine to call this crap out, because this is the kind of stuff that will eventually be used against the anti-woke gamers.
It 100%.
Because people will just go, wait, these are the guys that you represent? Holy shit, no. You take KCD2, for example. I would argue, and I've said this before, my biggest issue with KCD2 is the actions and the reactions of the developers to the revelations that Henry can be gay. That is the problem.
Vavra didn't handle that well at all. Like they're just like constantly saying, "Oh, don't believe everything you hear."
Pretending like it isn't there. And then finally going, "Okay, yes, it is there." Right? The thing that you all thought was there that we said isn't there, it is there. Oops, sorry. And then not doing the actual job of treating their community like adults and talking to them like adults, but just attacking them for no reason.
Imagine Vavra saying, "It's only gay if you push back."
Vavra is currently retweeting IGN and all of these guys celebrating the gay relationship. He's retweeting all of them with hearts and praising and all the rest of it. We also have a new bombshell that just dropped, where Grums has revealed that him and David, Vavra, was actually super close during the original Gamergate 1 stuff. Grums was helping save Vavra Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 by fighting alongside Vavra on this whole culture war thing. Because remember, back then, it was the left that wanted to cancel Vavra's game.
I'm just curious. do we have actual proof of this, or is this just Grum speaking? I'm gonna be real. Like, listen, I respect what Grums did for World of Warcraft and for Diablo and the shit that he did back in the day. That's one of the reasons why I follow him on Twitter. But like a lot of the stuff that he's been talking about recently, he is also one of the people that is wrong a lot of times. And this includes him attacking Monster Hunter, by the way. So
I will just say, hold up. I will just say, him attacking Monster Hunter was immediately followed up with an apology and a public acknowledgement that he was wrong.
Yeah, but but the thing is, it's also a very reactionary thing wherein you could, just by watching one of the trailers, because he did this right as the trailer came out, and just by watching that same trailer, he could have been like, oh, actually, never mind. I probably shouldn't tweet this. So
yeah, but I will just say, everyone has bad takes. I usually don't care about the bad take. I care about what happens afterwards. This is the same thing with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I don't care that Vavra and them changed it. I care about the fact that they acted like children afterwards, right? That's where my issues lie with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Not that Henry can be gay or whatever, but treat it with the actual seriousness of the accusations and make sure that you treat your players as adults. Grums, thus far, at least, have showcased himself to be generally principled in that way, because he will apologize when he gets stuff wrong. He will provide his sources. And in this one, he publicly tweets it out, right? He publicly uses Vavra's name. Vavra can completely ruin this, right? He can literally tweet out the DMs and show, I've never spoken to Grums in my entire life, if that is actually what he wants to do. Vavra has not done this. And Grums just came out and said, Vavra completely ghosted him. Throughout all of this, when the original Gamergate 2 stuff was starting to happen and people were starting to call out KCD2, Grums actually reached out to Vavra. This is according to Grums now. So allegedly, he reached out to Vavra and he was like, bro, let's talk about how you're going to handle this, because this is a minefield. Vavra just completely ghosted him. Didn't want to talk to him, didn't want anything to do with him. So I do think Vavra has walked over to the other side in some ways. But that is stuff that we can criticize. That is stuff that we can talk about. But then you have people like this John Del Oro that literally tweets out, right? He makes a tweet showing how Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 had 170,000 concurrent players. That's good numbers for a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
That is excellent numbers.
He says, look at this game. It can't even get 200,000 concurrent players on its first day.
I remember that post. That's so dumb, bro. Jesus Christ.
Then, the next day, the game breaks 200,000. He tweets out again.
Can't even break 300,000.
No, well, actually, after this, right after his initial tweet of 170,000, Kingdom Come Deliverance actually comes out and says, thank you so much. We've just sold 1 million copies in the first day. Right? This is the fastest selling game that they've ever made. This is super good times for them. He then tweets out the 200,000 and he says, oh, only 200,000? Where are these other 700,000 people playing the game?
Oh my God, bro.
And I'm like,
oh my God, fucking, dude, just
bro, this is the most rage bait, interaction farming bullshit ever.
But the funny thing is, it's like, it's only rage bait, not only rage bait, but also showcasing either blatant ignorance, because obviously the way that concurrents work is like you're not going to have the entirety of the player base playing concurrently because time zones exist.
Time zones exist.
Like, what the bro? Just fucking end me. Looks like the all-time. I was actually trying to check. The all-time peak is 255,000 for Kingdom Come Deliverance,
which is good numbers for a game like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
No. It's not good numbers. It's fucking insane. It's actually fucking insane.
I mean, that is people who expected Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 to get Baldur's Gate level of numbers don't know what they're talking about. Like, there's no way Kingdom Come is ever gonna have Baldur's Gate level of numbers, because it's a much more hardcore game. Like, much more hardcore. It's gonna be more niche. To see a niche game like that get over 200,000 concurrents you're absolutely right. It's insane. It shouldn't have those numbers, and yet it does. Basically, it shoots all of the arguments from developers that go accessibility matters and we have to make games easier for people. It shoots that in the dick because here's a game that doesn't really make it that easy to play.
I'm so confused.
And over 200,000 people played it.
So I'm so confused. Why do we not have accurate numbers on Elder Scrolls 5? Because I'm looking up Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim and I'm getting peaks of like 90,000. Like, that can't be right.
No, that would be 100% correct. Remember, it's only in the last few years that games have absolutely exploded.
So
prior to the last few years, getting to like 90 to 100,000 concurrents on your game was considered the base that it can be.
We're talking about a game that has managed to get more concurrents than fucking Skyrim. No, I think that's wrong. I absolutely think that Skyrim had more concurrents. There's no way. I don't believe that Skyrim had anything less than like 700,000 concurrents. There's no way.
Here's why I don't find it hard to believe. The first is, remember, there was a time, especially when Skyrim came out, where you still had discs, right? So most people were installing it on disk. They weren't really installing on Steam, right? Yeah, most people weren't playing online. They weren't really installing on Steam. A lot of physical copies, even Witcher 3,
you're right.
still come out during the physical copy era, right? Yeah, so fundamentally, that would have been good concurrence back then. But gaming has also exploded. I mean, just in the last 10 years, gaming went from having about 1.4 billion gamers worldwide about 10 years ago. It's now 2.38 billion gamers worldwide, right? So clearly gaming is exploding upwards. So concurrence nowadays, we look at a game and we expect 800, 900,000 concurrents on a brilliant video game. But games like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 are more niche than that. They're rarely going to hit those numbers, right? Because they're more hardcore, and hardcore games tend to have a more hardcore following. And for them, just getting, I think, 5 million sales on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 means they break even, because they absolutely did not spend 300 million making that game. They purposefully made it on a much cheaper engine, doing much smaller studio. But the point that I'm trying to make here is people like this John Del Aro, people like Yorch Torch Gaming, this is so bad and should be rejected by the anti-woke crowd. Absolutely should be rejected. When you have someone,
should be rejected by everyone, not just the anti-woke crowd.
John Del Aro goes around claiming that he's a Christian, right? He's a Christian and he doesn't want any of the gay stuff in his video games, no gay stuff in their video games. And then guess what happens? Yorch Torch, another Christian creator that doesn't want any gay stuff in their video game, tweets out a top 10 list of BioWare before they went woke.
I was in your stream when you showed this.
Yeah, you were in my stream when we discussed this. Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, Dragon Age Origins on the list of BioWare pre-going woke.
It's like, because
pretty sure you can be gay as shit in those games.
It's because like the commenter said on our video, it's not gay until you push back. I can't.
The point, it's just the irony is so sweet. When you have someone tweet out, I don't want any gay stuff in my video game, bring back Mass Effect 1.
It's like, what? What do you mean?
Did you play Mass Effect 1?
It's again, that's the problem with a lot of these accounts. That's the real problem that I have with a lot of these accounts. They don't actually play the video games they're talking about. They're just pulling out random bullshit out of their ass. And as a matter of fact, I think that a lot of these accounts are actually getting fucking 4chan psyoped, because some of the posts that the Pirate Nation guy posts is usually shit that he pulls out of 4chan. So I'm beginning to think that there are people like planting this shit on 4chan just to fuck them over. And God bless you for that. God bless them, bro.
The problem is their tweets get hundreds of thousands of views and of likes, and of it is so problematic to me, and it should be called out. I think as an anti-woke creator, it is incredibly important to me that the movements stay on point. What are we fighting? We're not fighting to have no gay people in video games. I want the days of Mass Effect back. You could be gay as shit in that game if that's what you wanted to be. It
We're
was
about
super
to get canceled by the anti-woke crowd. You want gay stuff?
I don't give a shit, right? As long as it makes sense, it's in the game, it's there for player choice, and it respects the canonical lore of the game, I couldn't care less. If Mass Effect 5 comes out and Shepard is suddenly confirmed gay, that's a problem, right? Because Shepard was always player sexual, now suddenly he's not player sexual, that would be a problem. That's my exact problem with KCD2. He wasn't player sexual, now suddenly he is player sexual. That is a problem. You're changing canonical lore. But the woke movement shouldn't allow itself to be co-opted by terrible actors who see this as just another way to engagement farm. And then you have Savvy, who, you know, is just one of my favorite people on Twitter, because Savvy finds, and this is how stupid some of these people are. John Del Oro hosts a live stream, and he goes onto his own Twitter, and it shows an alt account that he has. For a female smut writer. He role plays as a female alter ego, writing smut for women. This is the Christian, I don't want sexual stuff in my video game.
This is
writing literal female porn on an alt account.
This is what we in the industry call a red flag.
Yes.
It's a red blanket.
But dude, it's just like this is the problem with these people, and they should be rejected at every single turn, because they're harming a movement that is meant to get games back to when it was good. It's not meant to sort of purify video games. Games will never be pure. I said this the other day in my live stream. Someone was like, "Oh, so you're okay with gay people in video games?" And I was like, "Dude, do you have any idea how many gay people make video games? A lot of your favorite games had gay people working on that
exist.
game."
I know this might be a shock. Gay people exist.
And are you truly going to tell that gay developer that they're not allowed to put gay characters in the game? As long as it's completely optional and you don't have to engage with it, who the hell cares?
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Right? What is or is not in the
eventually, that gay developer is going to be like, "No, it's not optional anymore, motherfucker. You're going to take it up the ass."
Yeah, well, that's when they get woke, and that's where we push them out of the video game industry.
That gay developer's going, "You're going to take it up the ass, and you're going to like it."
No, I will not, good sir. I will not. But all right, so on to the next topic, and we're almost done with all of this, ladies and gentlemen.
Are we?
We have to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows.
I'm looking at the topic list. I don't think that almost done. I think we're going to cut a lot of topics is what's going to happen.
No. Well, I'm actually going to cut the Sweet Baby Inc. topic, because I already made a video on that, and that's sort of insider information.
Okay.
So people can just go watch that video. I had an email back and forth with an actual developer that has insights into Sweet Baby Inc. But all right, Assassin's Creed Shadows. This is what I think they did. Rurikhan doesn't quite agree that is what it is.
Oh, wait. I didn't say I didn't agree. I said that the article that I linked you yesterday, that's not what it says. I didn't say I didn't agree.
Okay. So maybe me and Rurikhan agree on this. We'll see. Right? Assassin's Creed Shadows technically admits that they just tokenized Yasuke.
Kinda. It's like, listen, right. the reason why I'm not going to necessarily disagree is because they tokenized so many other things in the game that I can't really just have like a strong sense like, no, they absolutely didn't tokenize Yasuke. Like, I think they might have, because they tokenized so much from Japanese culture, like in a brutal, disgusting way, without respecting that culture at all. Let's just be completely honest.
Did you hear that one of the Japanese local governments actually wrote an official letter to Ubisoft asking them to remove that temple?
Doesn't surprise me. I mean,
from the game?
Like I said, and here's the interesting thing, right? Japan loves being in video games. Like, there are so many video games that have like a Japanese setting of some kind, and you never see people getting upset over it.
It's just this shadows thing has been something that Japanese players don't like it. Japanese government is getting upset over it. Japanese historians are talking about it. It's just like
white gamers don't like it.
Yeah, and it's just like, meanwhile, I'm sitting over here just thinking like, you know what I don't like? I don't like Ubisoft's business practices. That's what I don't like. But yeah, it's also very disrespectful to the Japanese culture as a whole. But basically, they tokenized, like they took the half Torygate thing. That's like the monument to fucking
the Second World War.
Yeah. From the bombs.
The bombs.
So they take that, they bring in fucking a one-piece katana for Yasuke. It's just like disrespectful beyond belief. It might not even be intentionally disrespectful. It's just lazily disrespectful, which, to be honest, I don't know which worse. If you're trying to intentionally be disrespectful, or if you're just a lazy fuck that doesn't give a shit about the culture you're trying to represent. I don't know which one of those is worse, and I don't care. But the topic that go ahead.
I just on that point, I think it also matters when we talk about this. When you disrespect Western culture, the West does have I almost want to say a different approach to stuff like this. So when you just actively sort of make a game that shits on Western culture in some way, shape, or form, I'm not talking about rising to the level of woke, but like, you're able to destroy churches or whatever. Most Westerners don't really mind it. It's a video game. Who cares?
Yeah.
The Japanese, on the other hand, tend to take their cultural history super seriously. Like, that shit matters. It's super important to them that their cultural heritages and stuff is respected. Especially if you're going to make a video game set in Japan, you would argue that maybe you need to get the basics right of that, right? Now, I mean, I can't even actually, in just saying this, I can't even say that that's completely true, because just look at the amount of people that are outraged about Musa being in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And I'm talking about people who are from Bohemia, Czech, those areas, that are super upset because they know for a fact that Musa wasn't there. And they're like, why are you putting this character into... Musa is the black guy from Mali that's joined the game. And Musa has these lines in the game where he's he's calling all the white people barbarians, and they're not as advanced as the Mali Muslim people, shitting on Christianity, that sort of stuff. That's what Musa is doing in the game. And a lot of people are rightfully upset about that because it's not necessary. It doesn't have to be there. Japanese people are even more serious about that stuff.
Yeah.
They get even more angry about it. So anyways, I don't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to sort of lay that as a current backdrop.
But basically, the thing that they've said in the article that that I posted to you is that apparently you can play like 90% of the game with just one of the characters, and that's fine. And you don't really have to engage with the other character nearly as much. And the thing was, if we take into account the previews that we got from Skill Up and other people that got to play, they were saying that Yasuke can't climb towers. So when they're talking about playing 90% of the game with one character, I'm going to assume they're talking about Naue, considering how important towers are in Assassin's Creed games. It's not like you can just, let me just ignore the tower mechanic. So, yeah, I think that Yasuke is very much something that they're kind of like pushing towards the sideline, which, yes, that would be blatant tokenization. But again, we don't know what the game is going to be like at this point. I don't know what's happening. And to be honest, I'm not going to know because I ain't giving Ubisoft any fucking money, and they hate my guts to begin with. So, whatever.
I'll just go off of the people that played the preview build, and all of them said the same thing. When you play with Naue, the game feels good. Like, it feels like Naue was developed for the game.
Yeah.
When you play with Yasuke, it feels like it feels like 2/3 of the game was just completely cut out of the game. Because you're playing with a guy that can't sneak, can't assassinate, except for literally assassinating and alerting all of the enemies. that you just assassinated them, can't parkour, moves super slow and awkwardly, and is basically just a tank in combat.
What you got against
for
tanks?
anyone that, well, the thing is, if you've ever played like old school Assassin's Creeds, I know,
them.
but I remember when I was little, as I was much younger, when I played the first Assassin's Creeds, and what always stood out to me was, I realized this much later on, because you'd get in these fights, these sword fights, and you would just go, dude, why am I so weak in these sword fights? And then you realize, but
because you're
an assassin.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to engage in full-blown fights with 5 enemies. You're supposed to take them out secretly, quietly.
Those were super. I mean, not in Assassin's Creed 1, but in Assassin's Creed 2, they were super easy because the mobs would take turns. They'd be like, "Okay, my turn to fight now," and there's just like a crowd of people around you, and they would go in one at a time. It's like, "It's my turn to get killed now." Then you'd kill them, and then another one from the crowd come in. "Okay, my turn now." It's like so funny.
Yeah, no, I think fundamentally, like, obviously the old game design aside, I'm currently replaying Mass Effect on stream, and it's just so funny how the AI used to be in games.
Oh yeah,
especially when you're used to new AI that's a little bit more realistic. You just have these AI bots, enemies that stand in the middle of nowhere, just waiting for you to shoot them.
Pew, pew.
Like, they get completely confused about what's supposed to happen. But the problem is when you see the previews and you realize that clearly this game was designed for Nawe to be the main character, and then it feels like Yasuke was just shoehorned in, and that's the literal definition of tokenization, by the way. Creating something purely to have it exist for no other purpose or reason. And that's what Yasuke feels like. The whole point of this game was the dual protagonist approach, right? It was this unique new view on how to play a video game from Ubisoft. Now, when you're playing a game that is meant to be dual protagonist, you would expect that the game would offer you there'd be various times throughout the game where playing with one character over the other is almost going to be super required, because this one character has skills that you don't have. Guess what? That's only true when you play with Yasuke, because there are synchronization towers that Yasuke cannot climb, where he will go, this is more for Nawe.
Yeah.
Everything else, Nawe can just do on her own. And that sort of makes you realize, okay, this game was lazily designed. That's actually the worst. You just said it. Lazy tokenization is worse. Because if you did later on decide, okay, now we're going to put a black guy into the game as well, let's go. It's sort of like, okay, are you going to do the actual work of making him fit in this game and making him make sense in this game? Are you going to design places where you absolutely require him to be? So, for example, areas where unless you are super skilled, you're not going to be able to assassinate everyone. So Nawe, just for those of you that didn't even know, Nawe isn't a slouch when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. You're absolutely fine fighting with your sword and killing enemies, even if you're not assassinating them. But Yasuke can barely assassinate. It's like, hold on. It seems like Nawe is
the default,
the 100%, and Yasuke is like the 20% stepchild, which, based on your own tokenization, means you might think black people aren't as good at doing any of these things.
Whoa!
I'm just saying, they're the ones who made it about race, right? They're the ones who made it about race. I'm just reading what they're laying out. I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm just saying, if you made this highly political choice to have a black character in the game, and then you purposefully make this black character worse than the Asian female character in every conceivable way, maybe that's some unconscious bias stuff sneaking in there. I don't know. It's just crazy to me that this would fly, that Ubisoft would think that this is a good idea. It really annoys me. But anyways, do you have anything else that you wanted to say on the
Nope.
Yasuke thing?
No. Get me away from that.
All right, so let's quickly just talk about Bobby Kotick, because Bobby Kotick was on.
I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's you're gonna like this because it's gonna give you insight into Destiny, and Destiny 2 specifically. So Bobby Kotick's on this podcast, and he's basically a tell-all, right? He's talking about everything. Now, I haven't watched the full podcast yet. I'm sort of halfway into it. It's about 2 hours and something. I'm about an hour and something into it. But he did talk about a number of really cool things. So he speaks about before Activision and Vivendi merged, right? So when that whole thing was starting to happen and Vivendi and Activision was in talks for merging or buying each other out, him and the CEO of Vivendi basically had a gentleman's agreement that they were going to be co-CEOs. Now, originally, the Vivendi CEO, or then the Vivendi CEO comes to him and he's like, hey, I was thinking about this. I don't think the co-CEO thing is going to work. I want to be CEO. And then the board of directors from Vivendi come to them and say, no, we agreed to co-CEOs. You guys are going to be co-CEOs. And Bobby said he was fine with it. He didn't care. He was going to be president of Activision. This guy was going to be the CEO of Activision, Blizzard, Vivendi, effectively. So that's just how it's going to be now. It was going to be Activision Blizzard. Vivendi was going to lose their name and they're just going to operate under Blizzard. Then, shortly before this happens, like a month before this goes, and the reason I'm telling you this is to give you a sort of sense of who Bobby Kotick actually is.
I mean, he's a scumbag.
A month before all of this, actually, you'll be surprised in a second. A month before all of this plays out, the board of directors comes to Bobby Kotick and they're like, okay, so we want you to know we don't like the dual CEO stuff. We want you to be the CEO. We're going to let him go. And Bobby's like, wait, does he know that? Because we just spoke yesterday and we're still doing the co-CEO stuff. I've agreed to the co-CEO stuff. I want to do the co-CEO stuff. And they're like, no, we're not doing the co-CEO stuff. And he's like, okay, does he know? And they're like, no, we don't want to tell him yet.
This is being told from Bobby's POV.
Yeah. But again, this is stuff that can be very easily sort of, shall we say,
I don't know about that.
Debunked, right?
Yeah.
It can be debunked. Bobby Kotick says, I don't agree with this. And then they say, well, that's just how it is.
That's too
and he's
bad,
like, but then you
Bobby.
have to tell him. You have to tell them. Or tell this guy. And they're like, no, we don't want to tell him now because he can still tank the merger. We'll tell him when the merger is done. So Bobby actually phones this guy up and he's like, okay, I'm not allowed to tell you this, but I can't do this way. They're pushing you out. They're getting rid of you. And the guy said, yeah, I kind of knew. I knew I'm being replaced. I organized myself a lovely walkaway package, so it's fine. It's going to be fine. So that's sort of, according to Bobby Kotick, how he does his business. But Bobby then actually goes to the people from Vivendi and he's like, okay, how do I know you guys aren't just going to do this to me? Because he says that's always been his business sort of sense has been, if you can do it to other people, they can do it to you.
Of course.
And so he always had that approach to how they ran Blizzard or Activision, is don't do things to other people that you don't want done to yourself. But fundamentally, he said the board of directors literally sat there, looked him straight in the eye, bunch of French people, and they said, you don't. And that was the end of the meeting. And he was like, shit.
Of course.
Okay, this is gonna be a tough transition. Eventually, Activision obviously takes Blizzard and all that. But then Bobby Kotick speaks about their approach to acquisitions of studios. And he says they always, he at least, always followed the Berkshire Hathaway model. Now, Berkshire Hathaway is Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, their investment firm. He said they would look at studios that had the values that they liked, that had good track record of making good games, good decisions, and was profitable. So these studios were making money. They would then acquire these studios, and the main thing was they don't change the name of the studio keeps their name. They don't change the culture of the studio. They don't interfere with the studio at all.
They failed. Well,
according to according to him, they don't interfere. As Activision, they never told studios what they can and cannot do. Ever. Studios ran themselves. He said, and this was very different to the EA model. So he actually reveals, by the way, EA was in the process of buying Call of Duty and Blizzard. Like, Blizzard and Call of Duty was offered to EA first, and EA was like, nah, we don't care about these companies. And that's where Activision then steps in, buys these studios up, and it becomes its own studios, right? But effectively, he said the reason they didn't interfere with studios was because they bought the studios because they were well-run and profitable studios. Interfering would have changed that. That's why all of the studios they ever bought kept their names, kept their locations, kept their offices, kept everything. They didn't change any of that. Here's where EA, and this is where things get super interesting. EA doesn't do that. So when EA acquires a studio, the name is immediately changed to EA, EA Canada or EA Montreal or EA whatever. It changed to EA. And EA sends you what is called Section C. It's a handbook. The handbook is called Section C. In the handbook, it tells you what chairs you're allowed to buy, what tables you're allowed to buy, what pencils, utensils, PCs, everything in this handbook. They tell you exactly when you want a PC, these are the only PC stuff that you are allowed to buy. You're only allowed to have this many PCs for this many developers. Yeah. So everything gets standardized. Everything runs through the EA sort of mantra. After that, EA sort of lets you do your thing, right? So after that, EA doesn't really give a shit. But as long as EA, as long as you follow these rules, EA is happy. So they never did that. And as he's talking about this, I can't help but think to the two games that I know that used to be owned by Activision that isn't owned by Activision anymore. And that is Blizzard and Destiny.
I mean, Blizzard is still
Destiny
owned
2,
by Activision? What are you talking about?
No, they're owned by Microsoft now. They're no longer owned by...
Yeah, I mean, they own Activision.
Yeah, well, they own Activision Blizzard, but Activision and Blizzard now operate as two separate entities really under Microsoft. But fundamentally, you look at when did Destiny 2's problems start?
Bro, Destiny 2's problem started from the beginning. It didn't start after they separated from Microsoft. They aggravated after they separated from Activision. They aggravated after they separated from Activision.
Yeah, but this is the problem. Remember, the Destiny 2 devs pretended like Activision was the reason for all of the bad decisions that they had to make in the game.
Yeah.
But then they leave Activision and they make all of those bad decisions plus then more bad decisions, right? So you sort of go, wait, was it actually Activision that influenced you? Or were you just doing this shit
with Blizzard,
from the beginning?
With Blizzard, I don't think that's the case. Because we even have the whole thing about how they sent over like the fucking accountant person or whatever to do the whole thing with them and limit their budget and all of that. But they absolutely interfered with Blizzard. Yeah,
but there's an interesting thing here. When you go back to the timeline, this is after World of Warcraft and Blizzard as a whole start struggling, right? The entire mess that was Diablo 3, then World of Warcraft constantly releasing bad expansions. Blizzard was on a streak of very, very, very bad decisions. And then Activision sends in their own accountant people, send in their own people, trying to save this studio. At least if I read what Bobby Kotick is saying correctly.
I don't want. I'm not taking Bobby Kotick at face value. I can take a lot of people at face value. I ain't taking Bobby Kotick at face value.
Hold up. I'm not taking Bobby Kotick at face value. I'm saying I'm listening to what he's saying. Then I'm looking at the reality of the situations as they played out. And I can see a world in which he's telling the truth. Do I say I believe him? No.
Nah.
I'm saying,
fuck that guy.
Based on how he's explaining it, there is a world in which a lot of this stuff does end up making a lot of sense.
That's what he wants. He wants 2 yachts, 3
He already has a bunch of yachts. He doesn't need any more. He already has a crap ton of yachts.
A naval fleet of yachts.
Yeah. I don't know how true this was, but it was an interesting conversation at least to listen to. I'm still listening to it, so I'll make up my mind when I get to the end.
No, I do like listening to these guys talk
And
because usually they self-snitch on a couple of things, so that could be interesting.
He also spoke very critically of the Warcraft movie. He said the Warcraft movie is probably one of the worst films he's ever seen in his life. And he was super unhappy about Blizzard even making the Warcraft movie.
I don't think it was that bad. It wasn't great.
So,
did you think it was that bad?
Why he think it was terrible.
No, I mean you.
And yeah, I didn't like the fact that they butchered the lore, but I don't think it was the worst movie ever made. Yeah. But I think he's talking about it from the perspective of what it did to the company. Because he said the Warcraft movie is what burnt out Chris Metzen. Chris Metzen came to him shortly after the Warcraft movie, and he was like, I'm done. Yeah. I am burnt out. I cannot do this anymore. Burnt out. And then Chris Metzen left, and Bobby said at multiple points, he begged Chris Metzen to get back, to come back to the studio. And Chris Metzen just wasn't interested. He wasn't interested in coming back. Now, if I read sort of between the lines, it's Bobby Kotick could see how World of Warcraft is just continuously going worse and worse and worse. And he wanted Chris Metzen back because Chris Metzen could save this, could actually save the game. But yeah, it's a very interesting interview. You guys should absolutely go watch it if you haven't already. It really is an interesting interview. Right. Or I say interview, it's a podcast. They sort of chat, and I'm not a big fan of Kotick. I have videos on my old World of Warcraft channel tearing that guy a new one. I'm not a fan of Bobby.
You used to call him Bobby Kotick.
I did, back when I swore a lot more. I that was my nickname for him, my little pet name for old Bobby. But, fundamentally, I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe some truth to what he's saying. I don't think all of it is true, because remember, we always tend to make our own positions a lot better, a lot rosier, right? We no one makes them look silly, or makes themselves look silly. Yeah. Okay, now we're out of the woke stuff and out of the political stuff, and into Valve being good guy.
Based Gaben, bro. Based Gaben. There's companies out there, particularly, I think that usually with some of the biggest culprits of this is like Electronic Arts and Ubisoft. I always feel like they're the ones that are pushing this the most. Maybe Activision used to do it back in the day as well. They're coming in and they're like, oh, we need to put some ads in video games. We're gonna be very what is the word that they say? We're gonna make it make sense in the world. We're gonna make it's gonna be very targeted, very deliberate. We're gonna be very very subtle, blah blah blah. But we're gonna put ads in video games. And Gaben's like, no, you fucking won't. Not in my platform, you fucking won't. And this isn't even like something that's new. This is something that is like already written in Steam rules or whatever the fuck. You don't put ads in games. Not only that, but you don't even put incentives of ads in games, which I'm constantly blown away by Steam policies, because I didn't know that this was like a Steam policy. But when I heard about this, I was like, fucking based. Fuck these people. Fuck them. If you're thinking about putting ads in your video game, fuck you, bro. Get the fuck out of here. You're absolutely insane. You're charging people money for something, and then on top of it, you want to put ads on it? Get the fuck out of here. Get out. See you, kid. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out.
I'm right there with you. I think, dude, Steam does so much for the game industry and for gamers specifically that I think a lot of gamers don't appreciate. Now, by that, I'm not saying that Steam doesn't have their scumbag stuff. Oh, yeah,
they have their scumbag stuff as well, like the marketplace and shit, and the CSGO. Yeah, that's pretty scummy. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Steam does scumbag stuff, but they also do so much good for the gaming industry. Because I guarantee you, if Steam didn't have that policy, you would already have most games jam-packed full of ads before you're killing the boss in Monster Hunter. I'm not saying Monster Hunter would actually do this, but before you kill the boss in Monster Hunter, or after you kill the boss in Monster Hunter, you would go, and the replay brought to you by State Farm. And then you see how you killed the boss, and State Farm's little logo just spinning here as you're killing the boss, and you're like, or the kill shot before you do a massive like kill combo. It would be like, and the kill combo brought to you by X, and then X's little logo spinning there as you're doing the kill. Like, that would already be in games. All of our games would be flooded with this nonsense. And it's beautiful that it's not, right? Yep. It's beautiful that you can still log into a game and that shit isn't there. Because I guarantee you, it would probably be, right now, the best place that you can advertise is YouTube, right? By far, it's the best advertising that there is in the world. Gaming would probably be better. It would be bigger because millions of people would see it every single day.
Yep.
They would just see your ad every single day. So companies will pay. Yeah, companies will pay millions to get their ads into those games.
Video games, yeah. I bet you that a lot of companies are already paying like a pretty penny to put ads in mobile games, because there's a lot of mobile games where it's like, oh, you watch an ad and we'll give you like some garbage digital currency that won't let you actually buy anything unless you waste like a full fucking year watching ads. We'll let you buy this little cap for your character.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I think based by Gaben, as pretty much always. Now we're getting into
PlayStation,
for all the kings,
PlayStation
for all the kings.
What?
Yeah, but for all the king viewers, you guys can go take a drink. You can go hang out.
A lot of these,
Rurikhan is quickly.
A lot of these are coming to PC. No,
I'm joking. All of the console Andes that's getting super triggered by me, because every single time I make this joke of console peasants, people get mad, bro. It's a joke, guys. I couldn't care less. As long as you're not playing mobile, you're cool.
On a more serious note, I think that a large percentage of internet users nowadays have a hard time detecting sarcasm, because like even when I was doing the podcast with Preach was making fun of people who play ranged weapons in Monster Hunter, and he's clearly being like sarcastic, just poking fun, and there were actually people getting mad at that, and I was like, come on, man, it's funny, dude, banter, like relax.
You're saying that now. Yesterday I'm making a video about this this journalist that's saying that she'll make the review scores political and whatnot. And in that, I can't even remember how I get to it, but I make a joke about how Trump is going to turn Canada and Mexico into the 51st and 52nd state.
But that's politically charged. Like that's even.
It is so. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's so satirical on the face of it, right? I am clearly being super sarcastic.
Yeah, but with politics,
in the
people
joke,
don't
right?
take jokes.
And there's genuinely people who comment on that, going, I thought this wasn't a rage bait channel, but since that joke, I know for a fact that you're just rage baiting. And other people going, I can't believe you just said that. Canada will never be a state. I'm like, dude, I was laughing as I said it. Like I don't know how to make this more clear to you that this is a joke.
Anyway,
like, what the hell?
Listen.
Yeah.
State of play real quick. These are going to be my picks. Yep. There was a lot of good stuff in State of Play. I think that all of the games that I'm talking about here are also on PC. So number one, you want to know which game opened the State of Play?
Which one?
Monster Hunter Wilds, baby. They opened with the best. They just straight up opened with the best. I wasn't even expecting it, because Monster Hunter's been dropping so many news that we're just like, oh, we're probably good for now, right? It's like, nope, here's the launch trailer.
For those of you that don't know, the reason I don't know is I haven't watched the State of Play yet.
Yeah.
I only just woke up like an hour before this, getting ready for the podcast. So I haven't watched the State of Play yet.
So I stayed up to watch State of Play. Monster Hunter Wilds opened the show. Then there was a bunch of like Sega stuff and whatnot. There's some good games on there. Like there's some of those Yakuza games and whatnot. I don't really get involved in those because it's like a friggin' rabbit hole to fall down into, and I just don't have the time. But I know that those are solid. But the stuff that I picked was like Onimusha is getting like a new game on 2026. I never played the original Onimusha, So I'm super excited to check this out. It looks really good. I really like the pacing of the combat. They're also remaking Onimusha 2. So if you never played it, you can check that out. There's that game that is called Lost Soul Aside. Not sure if you've heard of this. It's kind of like a mix between Devil May Cry and Final Fantasy. It was developed by mostly one guy, and it looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one.
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Lies of P DLC was announced.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it has some really cool.
How
stuff
is
on
the
there.
what does the DLC look like? Is it good?
It looks really good. It's like it was in this snowy area, but the thing that they showed mostly was like bosses and weapons and stuff. The one that stood out to me is like this big meaty hammer that he had. He also has like a shotgun arm this time or something. So he's walking around with like a sawed-off shotgun in his arm. I was like, oh, nice. That looks kind of cool. Then there was this this other game called Tides of Annihilation, which is really cool. And interestingly enough, for some strange reason, you know how they have the recap at the end of the event? Tides of Annihilation wasn't there. I don't know if Sony has anything against these guys, but I was like, so wait, where's that one game that I really liked that's not in the final recap? What's going on? But yeah, Tides of Annihilation looked really good. It's this female character, kind of like a Bayonetta style game almost. Bayonetta, Stellar Blade, that type of thing. And it looked really cool. She would have like these summons. So like she would do a punch and a summon would show up to kind of like follow up on the punch. So I thought that was really nice. These are like my picks from State of Play, but they announced like a ton of stuff. And while we're at it, like I said, there was a new Monster Hunter trailer. By the time you guys are watching this, the Monster Hunter Wilds beta will still be live because it's been extended 24 hours. There's also this weekend multiple beta tests for the Elden Ring Night Rain game. They're doing, not beta tests, it's called a network test. So they're testing that out, and it's available for people that signed up for it or whatever. And finally, a very important thing that also happened, and that is the reason why the Monster Hunter Wilds beta is getting extended. PlayStation services were down for over 24 hours last weekend. And I suspect that it was likely because of Monster Hunter Wilds. So many people jumping back into the beta and stuff just exploded. Although PlayStation doesn't really say the reason. They say like network services have fully recovered from an operational issue. They apologize for the inconvenience, and they're giving away like 5 additional days of PlayStation Plus to make it up for it.
Yeah, I it was sad to me that they didn't actually give a reason. You know, they didn't actually put forward why it was done, because it is unprecedented to have a service go down for just 24 hours. Like, that's quite nuts.
Oh, no.
When you really think about it.
PlayStation had a time where it was down for even longer. I forget how long it was, but it was really long. It was during the PlayStation 3 era. It was that Lizard Squad group or whatever it was. Like, they took that shit down for a very long time. Yeah,
but I mean, in the modern day,
yeah,
things go down for like an hour or two. People lose their shit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so 24 hours, I remember my entire feed was flooded with people complaining about PlayStation, and I don't even own a PlayStation.
Oh, yeah. Like,
so, you know,
I was playing the Wilds beta on Steam. And there were a lot of people in there like, what the fuck? I can't play. I felt bad.
Guys, just another reason to walk over to the bright side, you know? Like, come to PC. We're not down that long. Steam is never down.
No, it goes down every Tuesday night, but it's usually by the time you're in bed. Every Tuesday night, Steam goes down for maintenance for like, I don't know, it's only a few minutes though. Yeah.
Oh, I've never even seen it go down.
You didn't know that? Yeah, like if you're playing a multiplayer game Tuesday night, usually you will get like, it's around midnight my time, you'll get disconnected because Steam like does maintenance. But like I said, it's less than 5 minutes. So like goes back up.
Not just that, I mainly play single player games, so it would not affect me anyways.
It wouldn't affect you, but people playing multiplayer games, that happens.
I can imagine. But all right, so all of the PlayStation stuff out of the way now. Let's very quickly touch on this because we don't have much time left. Naomi, I'm already apologizing for another very, very long podcast. But David Brevik, do you know who that is?
Yeah, he's the guy who made Diablo 2.
Yeah, so he was in a podcast where he basically spoke about ARPGs and how, in his opinion, ARPGs has completely taken the wrong lessons from Diablo 2.
I agree with him, by the way.
He's not a fan of the fact that your build effectively ends up killing everything. So you get the right build, you can stand in the middle of a screen, enemies literally all around you, and you'll just slaughter thousands of enemies. And then the screen is littered with hundreds of items that you couldn't care less about because who cares? You're just showered in loot. He doesn't like it. He thinks the whole thing has become so commercialized. In Diablo 4, he criticized Diablo 4 specifically. You can get from level 1 all the way to level 70 in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Because the whole game starts at level 70. The leveling experience, the journey of actually getting to max level has been completely gutted. The idea is just get to max level because that's when the game actually kicks off and starts. And he just feels like the entire soul of ARPGs is gone. There is no soul. There's just grind. Just
and
grind for needless shit.
I agree with the because this is one of the reasons why I didn't get into the original Path of Exile closer to when I was trying to get into it. I was like, oh, I don't really like these endgame builds that I'm seeing where people are just like deleting screens of enemies in a couple of seconds. Like, I understand that there's an appeal to that. I get it. But in Path of Exile 2, that's the reason why I got really into it, because they slowed down the pacing significantly and the campaign was amazing. Then when you get to endgame, things start to look more like Path of Exile 2. And I still like it because the pace, for me, for my build, which was not like one of those crazy builds that was obliterating screens, the pacing was still good. But I definitely agree with the whole thing that, like, the whole idea of obliterating screens of enemies is not as interesting to me as the more slow and methodical pace that we got during the campaign of Path of Exile 2.
Yeah, I definitely I agree with you. I think Path of Exile 2 specifically is the exception. I even said that in my video. I think that it is the exception insofar as it feels like the spiritual successor to Diablo 2.
Yeah.
More than Diablo 3 does. Like, Diablo 3 is not Diablo 2. It's almost the opposite of Diablo 2. And it is true, I think, that a lot of ARPGs these days follow the Diablo 3 mantra, which is just, one bolt, blow everything up. You get to games, to ARPGs where in the end game, you have one button that you click. Because your entire build is literally just to funnel all of the power into this one spell that then destroys everything.
Yep.
And you just sort of go, okay, but the challenge, I don't think, is a challenge that remains. Right? I think it's a thing that it sort of happens for a little bit, right? And it's sort of fun for a little bit. It's fun the first few times you do it. There's this massive dopamine spike that happens. But then after a while, it just sort of gets boring. It just sort of, it becomes almost habit. And I get his take, because I don't think the problem is just that ARPGs have gone this route. I think the problem is that MMOs have also gone this route. And you even have games like RPGs that have gone this route.
So the thing about that particular power fantasy is that I think that a lot of players have gotten used to that power fantasy when it comes to RPGs, and that is actually the thing that they're striving for. They want to have that one button build that blows everything up. And it's like whenever you take some of that power away from them, a lot of players don't like that. I've definitely seen that with Path of Exile 2, because I was like, man, I'm having a blast in the campaign. Like, I'm struggling. I think it's really cool that they're not scared of putting players in the ground, which is something that a lot of developers are scared of nowadays. So that made me really happy. And I was going through, but for a lot of players, they were like, oh, my character's not powerful enough to obliterate everything in like 2 hits. This sucks. And I was like, oh, I think we're just trying to look for fundamentally different experiences in games. And I think it's okay to have those ARPGs that it's just like, no, you get your one button thing that blows everything up and whatever. I think that's cool. It's almost like a Muzu game in a lot of ways, which is the warrior games. like Dynasty Warriors, stuff like that. It's kind of like a similar fantasy. But I prefer the more slow, methodical thing. As a matter of fact, it's one of the things that I liked about what I've seen in Onimusha from the gameplay footage they showed at State of Play, is that the pacing of the game seems more slow and methodical rather than like button mashy and super fast, flashy combos. And I was like, oh, I like that. I like that thing.
Yeah.
And MMOs have the same thing too. Like you said, there's a lot of MMOs where you're just like blowing through stuff. For a while, Dungeons in World of Warcraft, and I think it's still the case, there really isn't that much CC going on nowadays unless you're talking about like high mythic keys. You go in the dungeon, you AoE tank the pack. Sometimes if you're able to, you AoE tank 2 or 3 or 4 packs, and then you AoE everything down, and then you move on to grab 3 or 4 more packs. And it's the same thing in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, Final Fantasy XIV literally put stop gates in between pulls so that the tanks know exactly how much they can pull. It's like, no, you pull this pack, you pull the next pack, and then we physically don't let you progress any further in the dungeon so that you kill these 2 packs, and then we open something up, and you get to pull 2 more packs, and then you kill those, and then you fight the boss. And then you face 2 more packs, and the thing just kind of like repeats. And I'm not a fan of that thing. I actually do miss, and I know that a lot of people are going to be mad, I miss Burning Crusade tanking, which was like, okay, guys, Moon is for sheep. You know, Shield is going to be for sap or something like that. Skull is the one we kill first. Cross is the one we kill second. I love that. I was like, this is the way. Like, you try doing that now, it would never work. Like, nobody would follow that. People would be like, the fuck do... Marks? What? AoE it. What do you mean? Marks. That's crazy. But that was so much cooler.
Get, like, to the super mythic plus
super
high
mythic
plus levels.
Then you go back to marks. But like in that in between, there's none of that anymore.
No, and I think the problem also with loot, loot has sort of become this catch-all. We see it with the Overwatch, the loot boxes that's returning. It's this overall, it's this catch-all engagement mechanic. If we can't make content that is engaging, we'll just make rewards that engages you, because we're basically getting you addicted to the purple pixel.
Yeah,
the purple pixel drops in almost all games. It makes a sound. It's usually a very satisfying sound when it drops. It's like in World of Warcraft, when you get a super big drop for a super cool item, it makes a noise, right? There's a like you can feel, oh shit, I just picked up something cool. And then you hover over it and you go, wait, this isn't cool at all. I should keep grinding to get the next cool one that I need to get.
Like a slot
in
machine.
Order to. Yeah, and it's fine if it only existed in ARPGs, if those were the only games that did it. The problem is that so many games are following that trend. ARPGs are doing it. Looter shooters are doing it. MMOs are doing it. You even have ARPG or RPGs that's starting to do that shit. I'm sort of, I'll never forget. I had one of the biggest complaints I heard from people about Baldur's Gate 3 was they wished that there was more loot. And I'm like, why? That's the whole point. There's very few super powerful magical items in the game. Those items are super
meaningful.
Powerful.
Because they're meaningful. God.
Yeah, when it finally drops for you, if it even drops for you, because some of those items are very sort of hidden behind super puzzles and stuff that you might not even know exists unless you actually explore it. If it drops for you, your power level is going to noticeably increase. It's not going to be like, oh, the small little bump in power increase. Once you equip that weapon or that armor, you're going to be like, holy crap, what? I'm doing so much damage right now. Right? Or I'm being able to tank so much more damage. But that's the whole point. Most of the armor in the game is just what you would expect in real life. It's bog standard, who cares kind of armor. But it's also this fact of a lot of people don't understand how the armors work in Baldur's Gate 3, right? So people will just see AC And they'll be like, oh, it's just 1 extra AC. And you're like, 1 extra AC is quite a lot, actually, when you really know how AC works in the game. Like, it actually is a lot, because if it takes you over another breakpoint, it gets so much harder for enemies to actually hit you, or for enemies to actually do crit hits to you. But you think of all the other games these days. When's the last time you've played a game, and not Monster Hunter Wilds, because in Monster Hunter the idea is sort of this, but when's the last time you played a game where an item drop actually meant something? Like, where you actually cared about the item that dropped, and you were so excited about this item dropping because this is the item that you've been looking for. I can remember exactly what was the last item that dropped for me like that.
I mean, if you're talking about an item, you're talking about an actual, like, piece of gear, or can it be like a material?
No, an actual piece of gear. So it's a piece of gear that drops that you're like, holy crap, here we go. I finally have it. This is going to be insane.
Because, in Monster Hunter, you don't get weapon drops, you get material drops that let you craft weapons.
Yeah,
so
but remember,
the answer would be Monster Hunter for me. But if you mean like actual weapon, it was probably like if I'm farming something specifically, an Elden Ring or something like that, that might have been it. But yeah, I don't know, because it's not super hard to farm stuff there. So yeah.
For me, it was Elden Ring when that blade, the dagger dropped, the blood one that shoots the
Reduvia.
When that dropped, I was like, holy crap, here we go. Especially once I knew what the weapon did. I was like, oh, yes, here we go. Right? But it is, again, because a lot of the items that drop in Elden Ring are completely purposefully made to be ordinary.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be super special. There's a couple of weapons in each of the weapon classes that are build-defining weapons. You're going to build around this weapon, and this is how you want to play it. But the other thing is,
you're saying that those items are ordinary, but each of those items usually can be built. Like, there are no worthless items in Elden Ring, except for maybe, like, broken swords or shit like that. Actually, do we even have broken swords in Elden Ring? I forget. I think
I've never seen any.
Yeah, but like...
But maybe there is.
Yeah, but it's like, there's very few items that you go like, oh, I can't actually do anything with this. Because like most of the items, you might not be able to do something for your build, but you can like customize them and they can be used all the way up to end game.
No, but I mean, the whole point of Elden Ring is it's not a game that's made around items all that much. The items are sparse for a reason.
Yeah.
And that creates that sort of value to the item. When the item finally does drop, there's value in that item, which you don't really get in most modern day games. There's very little value to anything that happens in the game. And it's sad. It's sad that we can see it. David Brevik clearly can see it. But the modern day developers seemingly has no idea.
It is what it is.
Yep. And hopefully gaming is taking a turn for the better. Hopefully in the next 5 years, we'll start seeing... I want to make this super clear to people. We're not going to see that immediately happen. Most of the games that's coming out in the next 2.5, 3 years were started 2-3 years ago. Right? So they're not going to be able to make major shifts in development cycle. But I do think a lot of games that are starting now, you see it with Lords of the Fallen. That studio has fully embraced player first as their mentality. Now, some of it is political, insofar as removing body type A and B and removing pronouns and, sort of dropping all of this nonsense from the game. But player first doesn't just mean that. Remember, player first means what is most important to our player base. And when you take that philosophy and you run it the full gauntlet, it only ever can lead to better games.
What's most important to our players is to have cool-ass gameplay, and that's why everybody needs to go play Monster Hunter Wilds. That's what's up. And Elden Ring Night Rain seems pretty fun, too.
Yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from myself and Rurikhan for this episode of the Mythic Banter, or just Mythic Banter, that was just added for effect. But we will be back next week, as is always the case. Remember to hit the like button if you liked it. You can hit the dislike button if you didn't. That also lets us know where we can change and what we can do differently. Let us know in the comment section down below what you thought of all of the stories that we have. And remember, guys, the more you like, the more you subscribe, the bigger our reach gets, the better it is for us to finally start to get some actual developers and actual content creators on the show. And more importantly, when we start to get big enough and we can actually afford to employ Naomi full-time, we can maybe start getting these podcasts out a lot sooner rather than on a Monday because, well, we only have the time to edit them over the weekend. So, you know, you guys get to determine when you get the content effectively. But as always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and we will see all of you in the next one. Peace.